A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web screen thinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Hop off the cork, have a glass of wine, plus they'll say I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Open Bar 92.
Hello.
Hello. That's a terribly polite way of breaking the bar into being, MauLer.
Very nice to meet you all. Welcome. Come in. Have some drinks.
Tally ho, everyone. Fine.
First round's on me.
Yes. Well, it's good to be here, and it's good to. Well, this is kickoff Open Bar number 92, and I had a thought, right? Because we talked a little bit about this last week when it was Open Bar 91, and we were trying to think of things that happened in 91 because we only do Open Bar once a year, MauLer. It's like our anniversary thing. Yeah. So I came up with a few things. I found some not so interesting facts about 1992. Would you like to hear a few of them? Things which happened. So things which happened in this year. George Bush throws up in the lap of the Japanese Prime Minister. That apparently happened. I've seen the footage of it. It's great. They actually lampooned it as well in Hot Shots, which is awesome. AT&T released the first video phone, and it came in at the princely sum of $1,499, which is a bargain in my view. So good on you, AT&T. I love the 90s. I love that optimism that they had in the 90s about things like the internet. It was going to be this brave new world, and they had no idea it was just going to be idiots arguing with each other. But hey,
some people predicting that probably. It was like one guy, but was that it? Was it Phones and Vomit? Or
I've got some more. Biggest pop song of the year apparently was "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. And what else did we have? George Bush was Bill Clinton was elected president in November of that year. Now, in terms of movies, I can give you a rundown of some of the biggest films of that year. Top one was Batman Returns.
All right, yeah, cool.
Brought in $162 million. And that was the biggest film of the year. Okay.
Well, all right.
Changed days. Lethal Weapon 3 came in second. Sister Act weirdly came in third.
Okay.
Never would have pegged that. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York was fourth, and Wayne's World was fifth.
Hey.
Wayne's World did $120 million, so it was only $40 million off the top movie of the year, which, damn, that is impressive.
It's a funny movie.
And just out of curiosity, a few other movies you might recognize that came out in 92 were Unforgiven. I think you're a bit of a fan.
To say the least.
Last of the Mohicans, The Bodyguard, Alien 3, not so much. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, which you and I are going to experience pretty soon. And most tellingly for you, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, came out in 1992.
We don't really talk about that.
I was going to say, obviously a big fan of the show. What did you think of the film?
So it's campy and silly and fine. I am okay with it. Thumbs up.
What was the girl who played Buffy in that one?
Christy Swanson.
That was it, yeah. Because the plan initially was to go into a TV show and have her play Buffy in that as well. But I think they felt that she was too old already to play her. So, yeah, they went with Sarah Michelle Gellar, which was probably a good choice in retrospect.
Yeah, they found themselves some good actors for that show.
Indeed. But anyway, yeah, a few pointless random facts about 1992. Not a massive year in cinema, I don't suppose, but Batman Returns was a good movie, so fair dues.
Yeah. We're going to do this every Open Bar now? You're going to start a trend? Because people are going to want this.
I honestly, well, if people like it, then I will try and come up with some good facts for you. This one was done kind of off the cuff. I only had a few minutes to research this stuff. I'll try and find more interesting things later. The George Bush vomiting thing, though, is a favorite of mine. It's great. Anyway, enough waffling about 92. Let's bring in some of our guests, shall we?
Yes.
All right. Well, he is the man who's cynical about movies. Is the movie cynic. So, hello and good day to you, sir.
And good day to you too, gentlemen. How are you?
Just wonderful.
Play too much?
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, thanks for the invite. Excited to talk about all the Well, there are two things that happen regarding Julius Caesar in both these movies that we watched. And so it's just odd that I noticed that in the second one. The first one is not done so well, but looking forward to talking about him.
Yeah.
Do it. Kill her.
Oh, man.
That quote has been stuck in my brain. It's
so rough.
They may have found legit the worst actor in the whole of Hollywood for that.
Yeah.
Was he fucking with them? We'll never know.
I honestly want to hire an orchestra with bags on their heads just to play me an intro for like big significant events in my life.
Yeah, I love seeing like the Titanic band star in, Easter egg.
Yeah. Well, I think if I'm going to murder someone, I definitely want like a musical accompaniment to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the idea that they were like, Zach, that goes in the soundtrack. And he's like,
it doesn't have to be in the film.
I am reinventing the wheel here, okay?
Oh, bless you, Zach. Anyway, on to our next guest. He's coming to us all the way from Kiwi land. It is Echo Chamberlain. Welcome back to the bar.
Hey, lads. I'm looking forward to all of us taking turns delivering long-winded monologues about the fateful day an Imperium ship appeared above our planet and took away everything that we loved, and we swore from that day on that we would not rest until we had extracted revenge.
I know, it's such a universal theme, and it truly is universal in Rebel Moon. Literally every character has the same backstory, but we can talk about that. I honestly want to understand how a steam-powered spaceship works with actual coal boilers. I just think that was beautiful.
Yeah, so there are dudes in dungarees like underneath who are just shoveling in shovelfuls of coal all day into the engine of this spaceship.
Yeah, what does it translate into? Like, how do you get steam power to propel a spaceship?
Yeah, I had to watch these two films back to back. Can you imagine what happened to my brain after that?
I was talking to Rags about it because he hadn't seen it, and he was like, "How much coal would you actually have to burn to like?" How big was this ship? It's like, hey, don't consider it impossible. All right, when there's a dream, there's a way.
Do you think it was it was actually pointless, and it was just to give those guys something to do? It's like, well, they need a workout. So it's
the thing is, he could still get away with this if he says like, oh no, it's palastrium. It's a material from the whatever. And when you burn it, it creates a magical space dust that when it's put into the, because when we were looking at it, I think it was Random Film Talk, or it could have been Little Platoon, I'm not sure, but one of them was bringing up how they have a space god in their engine or something.
Because it opens its eyes at one point.
Yeah, that's apparently a captured god.
It's great how the movie shows us that and literally doesn't explain it in the slightest.
It's just like, what the... then I saw people like tweet about it. It's like, so the fuel engine for this is a cosmic space god and coal. Like, what? Why?
Well, because and why isn't that cosmic space god not powerful enough to transport the whole thing on its own? You need a little coal too.
I'm just imagining a Star Trek episode where Scotty's like, "I cannot do it, Captain. The space god's getting tired. You need to shovel more coal in."
Shovel more coal, Scotty. Come on.
During an interview for this movie, too, he talked about how because it's a mix of sci-fi and fantasy, the fantasy elements allow him to do anything he wants. He said, he literally said, how do the spaceships work? I don't know. I don't care. So that's your answer for why it's coal and a god powering it, because who cares?
See, but like... That's what I don't get about some of these movies. If they were in Austin Powers 4 or something, or Spaceballs, it should be, right? And they they put a battery into the wall or something. That's how they like an actual AA. They just they slot it in. They're like, there you go, the engine works. Like jokes like that are great, and having shoveling coal would be great. But then you're like, oh no, you're serious. What are you doing, Zach? What do you mean?
I suppose before we go further, I should probably bring in Disparu as well, because we're missing our final guest. He's just showed up because I know he does another stream just before this. But welcome back to the open bar, Mr. Disparu. Good to have you back, man.
Great to be back as well. Always good to be on. I was just thinking, as you're describing all this thing, every single scene in this is like rapid fire problems. Just from that scene alone, my favorite bit is when she's laying these mines that have LEDs on, so they're like literally glowing, and the soldiers walk up, and then he's like, I've just spotted. They're at eye level, a foot away from him, and they're just all standing there until he spots them. Meanwhile,
it takes him a really long time as well to react to it.
Does he even spot them?
Processes it.
Because he spots her, right? That she fights him.
No,
and then...
he like she's gone by this point and gone off to the next area. He finds the mines just because he
Oh,
looks
that
over,
guy, right.
and then he suddenly realizes the 10 LEDs that weren't supposed to be there glowing in his face. But no, after she does them with the coal guys, they never did anything. The coal guys weren't even enemies. She just jumps off and starts blasting, and then they try and defend themselves with shovels. Meanwhile, there's a soldier that runs off, and she ignores him, calling for backup, because she's too busy slaughtering the guys that have just got shovels.
Does she
She
know
kicks
that
one
the
of them
people
into a
mining the
boiler.
coals? Does she know if the people mining the coal are like slaves or anything? Like they're not nice people.
She fires first.
Zack Snyder wouldn't care. Like if you asked him about it, he'd be like, I don't know. It just
Fucking
looked cool. But I love how
mining
that
the coal.
she kicks one of these poor guys into a boiler as well.
Yeah,
Like-
and all that's happened from his point of view, he was just working, then two of his mates get shot, and she lands in front of him. Of course he's going to try and hit her with a shovel. Who wouldn't?
Isn't it so odd that Zach had her kill medics and fuel engineer people? Like,
Yes.
okay,
Who's the
that's
villain
really
of
weird,
this?
man. Like, it's a really odd choice.
Honestly, I wish they had gone with their initial kill her.
What are you waiting for,
Yes.
child? Do it.
I
Well,
mean,
like
scene
the
yeah.
with
musicians. The
the
musicians are like,
classical. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the musicians because I'm fascinated by this. This is one
Oh,
of the funniest things I've ever seen. So
You
either,
could legit
either
make an entire video just deconstructing that scene.
Yes. So
I
one
might
of two
do that,
things
actually.
is true. One of two things is true. Either they had a pre-prepared score where they had all the dramatic beats of the scene that was going to happen when the guy comes, and so they were playing that along, or they were improvising to the scene as it's developing, and then their music is getting more impassioned. as
Well,
what's
I could
happening on
believe
the
that,
screen.
but then they can't see what's going on because they got bags on
Yeah.
their heads. So
yeah, they have to go off
There's
the
a little eye
yeah.
hole in there. They're fine.
Oh right, yeah.
I
Well,
No,
I
that's
thought
one of
they
the
were
funniest
like-
things I've ever seen.
You know when there's like a bully and he's like bullying someone and the other guy gets like a good comeback kind of thing, and everyone goes, "Oh!" They were like those kind of people. Like the moment she points the gun, they go to really tense music. What's she gonna do?
Yeah.
Is she gonna shoot
Yeah,
him?
yeah.
Nobody knows.
I think it's great as well because I'm convinced Zack Snyder really thought that was a piece of high art that he was creating there.
Yes.
It's like it's got classical music in it. That means it's sophisticated, and it's a reference to like the assassination of Julius Caesar. So that makes it super sophisticated because it shows that I know about history. And
That is
Bless you, Zach.
unironically what I think he does hope for in his fan base, for them to talk about how you probably wouldn't know. You haven't read up on a lot of what he's referencing. This is some dude, and you're just like, shut the fuck up. Like,
I saw that. That was I didn't see a lot of defense for this movie like you did around like Batman versus Superman or Justice League or any of the DC movies.
that's
that he
the
did.
thing. He's
But like
losing
I
his-
did, I saw a tweet unironically saying like this man just combined the assassination of the Romanovs and Caesar together. He's a genius. Like he's goated. And I'm like, that's the thing. That is Zack Snyder because he does the thing. The concept is good enough. It doesn't matter how well it's executed or anything like that. The effort is there, and therefore he's a genius.
The release of Army of the Dead, I think, was crossing the Rubicon for a lot of people. That was the point where people recognized we can't defend this guy anymore. He actually just produces shit movies. And the more creative freedom he has, the shitter they become. You know, before that, you could perhaps make the argument like, oh, well, he didn't get to make the movies that he really wanted to make within the DCEU, and that's why they failed. No, he is just actually shit at making films, and he's particularly shit at writing films.
I
His
think,
interview really highlighted why he'll never improve. Like, this is just who he is. It was like, and I don't listen to feedback. And if you don't like me, you just like Happy Meals, and you just want the dross that Hollywood's pumping out because I'm an artist, and so there's my vision or their vision, and that's it. He couldn't even understand a range of different things that could have been this movie could have been. Like, no,
That's
it's my
so
way or the
funny. I
highway.
called this movie like high-end fast food. Like this is Chick-fil-A as opposed to McDonald's instead. Like that's literally what I wrote in my fucking script for this thing. So that's hilarious that he said that in an interview.
It feels more like, I don't know, a Big Mac with truffle oil
Yeah.
like drizzled on it, or something, like some kind of veneer
With the
of
burger
like
removed.
sophistication. But like when you get to the core of it, it is just a cheap piece of shit that's probably going to shorten your lifespan. Like,
A fillet of fish with caviar. It's,
yeah, exactly.
But all these guys we used to think were cool, like Kevin Feige, Jon Favreau, Zack Snyder, none of them are cool anymore. It's kind of sad that whole generation of guys we used to like. So that's kind of faded.
I mean, we'd still think they were cool if they were doing good things. Like, if Kevin Feige was still producing banger MCU movies, like, I guess we'd still be pretty happy with him. He would still look like a complete goofball, but, like, you know,
Well,
it wouldn't matter.
I mean, I guess that's the thing. They just aren't. All three of them producing things that are quite horrid right now. I was thinking of how many other people we could throw onto that.
Filoni as well. Chuck him in there. He used to be.
I never thought he was
mildly
any good. But then again, I never thought Zack Snyder was any good, really. So it was just like different.
Well, Zack, even in this, there are some scenes that look good. Like, there are sci-fi elements that look cool. He just needs somebody else to actually make the actual content that he then does the stylization around.
What would you go with for the coolest shot?
I thought it wasn't quite the resurrection scene at the start, but the whole sci-fi elements of what was it? There's a particular like a screen with the digital. I can't remember the stuff off the top of my head, but I liked a lot of the medical room. I also liked it in the previous movie when they did that kind of scene and he was like sinking down. I think that looks like a cool kind of sci-fi setup. And there's also the grain, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like a bit of a tenet now of sci-fi movies of like a character submerged in some kind of goo being slowly like lifted out of it and
wasn't so much the goo,
revealed.
it was like the rest of the room kind of thing.
Yeah.
He ripped it off from Revenge of the Sith. Okay, that was Darth Vader's resurrection room.
I'm trying. Like, it's a good question you pose though. Like, is there any scenes where we can say, well, that's aesthetically pleasing at least? I mean, I think there was perhaps a few in the first movie where it was like probably early on, and it was just like shots of them farming, like big landscape shots with like, you know, gigantic, spectacular moons and stuff in the background. Like, okay, that looks kind of nice. Like, it doesn't connect to anything. It doesn't matter. It's just like a simple scene that just looks good. But yeah, for the most part,
I wish I could agree, but like there was a part where we were going through it on EFAP, and Fringy noted he made the like the cosmos ugly in several shots, and we were just like we were staring at it for a while, like how do you even manage this? Because he's quite special when it comes to manipulating color and moving things around. I'm not going to say he's never created shots I like though, because he definitely has. I just don't know that I would ever pick Army of the Dead or the Rebel Moons for that.
Well, he's made color his enemy, but he's also made focus his enemy.
Yes,
where like because it was when I said to you with the first Rebel Moon, like the fuck was the DP on this, and you were like, oh, just look it up, and it's like it's fucking Zack Snyder. Like, okay, that's why you can't see anything.
It's gaudy and glossy and horrible, and everything looks disgusting. It's the ugliest set and costume design I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah,
costume design in this film is awful.
The lenses he uses, like, so I know it's like an anamorphic lens, but I don't know if he runs it through some sort of filter or something, because like when it focuses on a person, the background, like with anamorphic shots, it stretches the image so it looks really cool. But what he does is like he twists it, so it looks absolutely horrid, and then you smear his favorite color of brown all over everything.
Yeah.
Everything is too severely contoured, if you know what I mean. It's horrible to watch.
Well, MauLer did a good comparison between the same scene. I think it was Wonder Woman during the terrorist sort of incident in Justice League. And it was the same shot, but it had been recolorized by Whedon so that it actually looked like people looked like they were real or alive. And then you just said, like, Wonder Woman looks like she's dying of fucking cancer in Zack Snyder's version because she's so, like, washed out and just bleh. Like, there's no color to any of it.
Justice League was famously like sickly looking because they'd tried to crank the colors up.
Yeah,
it had the same problem as Ghostbusters 2016, where everyone was like, "Ugh, it feels like
I don't think any
rainbow vomit," you know?
Yeah, I don't think any movie made my eyes hurt as much as that one. That was just taken to a ludicrous level. But yeah, similar.
Yeah, in any case, we have a lot of people who either hate color or have no idea when to stop with color. So it's like, you know, it's a great selection.
Not knowing when to stop is his whole thing. It's like when he says, "Why do you slow-mo?" It's like, it's awesome. It's like, yeah, it might be in a bit, but you keep doing it for everything. And when you're slow-moing somebody flipping grain, maybe it's time to stop. How did you watch that back and think, no, this needs to be
because I I sort of get the intent behind it, where it's like if you choose to slow-mo a shot like that of a person doing something, you're attaching a great deal of significance to what they're doing. It's like I want the audience to really appreciate that this activity, whatever it is very important to this character, and it's going to mean something to the film, which is fine. But if you just choose to do it when they're just harvesting grain, like you say, it doesn't mean anything. Like, this isn't a scene that you need to focus on. We know what they're doing. It's not even something you need to show at all. You can just say, right, we need to harvest the grain and pile it up into bags so that we can use it as hostages.
He seemed to know that, because when he was talking about slow motion, he said it's to draw attention to heroic moments. It's part of the heroic tableau. It's to literally mid-action to draw attention to the particular move, so you can see it better. Because otherwise, the action can get really cut up quickly, and so he prefers to be able to actually show, no, this is something cool they're doing. It's like, yeah.
I think he was going for a sense of like Arcadian bliss, you know, and an Arcadian grace of working in these fields in the countryside and the nobility of that. I think that's what he was going for. But you're right, it kills all momentum and it kills all the energy. Like if it's something like Terminator 2, and it's just like the nuclear bomb sequence and Sarah Connor's in the playground and everything's in slow motion beforehand, then you're building up to something. You're developing a sense of unease. But if it's just in the middle of this horrible scene that goes on forever, and there's one bit where like Jimon Honsu, I think is his name, it's literally like he's scything grain and the camera is like focused essentially on his crotch. And so you're seeing just this gigantic crotch.
There's a lot of, there's a lot of like shirtless, muscular men doing activities like that. It's like there's a real homoerotic undertone to this movie. I don't know what he's going for there, but okay, fair enough, Zach. I just
if you're that actor and you go to the premiere and you see your crotch like 10 meters squared just on the screen, that's be a weird
slow motion.
In slow motion,
I did like this one. No pain, no grain.
It's unbelievable how much of Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 are about grain. It's crazy.
And then in the end, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. This thing that's at the core of the whole fucking story, and then they're like, we don't need the grain, we've got the girl.
But that's what it was. Never about that. They even said we're going to go to this planet because we're after the Scargiver, and then another guy on the planet goes, that's weird, they're coming here, they must be after the grain. The next thing, it's like they've heard him and gone, yes, we are actually after the grain. And then halfway through the thing, it's like, I know, we were never here in the first place. It's like he wrote his whole thing, and it is literally the last thing you see is what he remembers and how he writes until something else changes, and then that goes forwards. It's like there was fighters that came in off the ship in the first place. They never do anything until fighters appear to take them down, and suddenly they're all flying all over the place again. It's like, what have they been doing for the last half an hour during this battle? But because they were off the screen, he forgot about them. Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, there's something to be said as well for the shamelessly redundant dialogue in this movie. Like, at the beginning, they have returned to the farming planet after apparently having killed Admiral whatever the fuck his name is, and they are welcomed by the villagers, and one of them says, "Oh, come inside. You must be hungry. We've prepared a feast." And then they go inside, and then they look at, there's a slow motion tracking shot of all the food that they've prepared, and then they talk about how much food there is, and then he says again, "Eat, you must be hungry." And then the private guy who's like turned to their side, like betrayed the Empire, comes in and says, "Oh no, they're actually coming, and Admiral what's his fuck is alive, and this is something we need to deal with." And then they leave and they don't eat any of the food, but they've spent so long talking about the fact that they need to eat and the feast is there for them. It's so redundant and stupid, but it's just there to waste time, and that's what like 50% of this movie is.
Just watch the extended cut. They'll eat the food.
Oh yeah, does that mean there's going to be like 12 of these movies? If there's going to be 6, we're going to get 6 extended cuts, right? So we get 12.
Fuck yeah! And the challenge will be to watch all 12 in a row.
Didn't you say as well, like the extended cuts aren't just a different interpretation of the same event? It's like a parallel universe or something. Yeah, so this is like a multiverse of Zack Snyder stupidity.
I also didn't understand. They said at the beginning of this movie, I watched them back to back, so it might be confusing, like how the story, what starts where. But I'm pretty sure during that scene when they walk in and it's the feast or the not feast, they're like, oh, like no blood has to be shed. The ship is going back to the mother world. Everything's fine. And my first thought before that guy came in was like, actually, they're coming here. Was like, doesn't that mean the ship's going to go back and they're not going to care that their admiral's dead? They're not going to want to find out why. They're not going to send another ship back here and just like obliterate.
Yeah, they make
everybody.
it sound like it's a permanent victory as opposed to, well, so they will come back. Then.
It's so stupid as well. Like, I don't know. It's like, say that the US Navy was deployed for another Gulf War or whatever, and like one of their admirals just got assassinated. Would the entire fleet just sail home? Like, we can't do anything without him. Guess the war's cancelled then.
It's easier than it sounds because they have space vaginas that they just go straight through. And then we can end up on the other side of the world.
Yep.
But how does this
This
tiny half-starved nomadic community come up with what looked like an exotic continental breakfast of foodstuffs from?
Yeah, I
all
thought
over
they
the
just
place?
do grain.
They probably got it
but
from the town, the local town. Nobody seems to care about.
It's not as if this is the Ukraine, like the breadbasket of Europe or anything. It's this tiny community that's producing like a small amount of bushels of grain. It becomes a center of all this intrigue.
I would love it though. Actually, that could have been hilarious if they laid out this magnificent feast and it was all just bread products.
Things dipped in corn.
Yeah, it's like bread steak with bread fries and served on a bread sandwich. Like,
Bread sauce. It's just bread.
It's pureed bread.
But that whole scene was so weird. I actually thought there was more to it because they lead them in and like, it's weird. There's none of the town folk are here. It's like, yes, but we prepared a meal for you. If you eat this food, then we'll all really love it because we're really grateful. Why don't you eat the food? You should really eat the food. Like, is it poisoned or something? Did they stitch them up and go to the other guys and lead them into a trap? No, nothing there.
Wait a minute. How did they even know to prepare the meal? Because they just fucking got there.
Yeah, you didn't know
Been
that
sitting
they were
there for
gonna.
days.
That would take. It's like all rotten and shit.
That's why they didn't eat any of it.
We
It
just
was
perpetually make meals every day, just hoping people will eat them.
This is a year's worth of all our finest foods. It's just sort of rotting there on the table for a bit.
Oh
You
god,
know,
it's
at the
amazing.
end of
Like
the
even such
movie-
a simple scene as that, you can pick apart and destroy.
Yeah.
At
My
the
favorite
end
scene,
of the-
I think my favorite scene is still after the assault sequence in the barn, and then there's a big shootout, and then as if on cue, all 30 villagers suddenly just come around the corner into the thing. Like, were they just waiting there for their cue? It was like a high school production or something.
Oh yeah, because there's like several factions that just don't get involved until they are
until it's
like the enemy AI in COD games, where they will not spawn until you reach a certain point. The enemies have to push forward enough that they will spawn. And it's like, why did you do it this way? You have
the
guns.
guys that walk across the bridge. They come out on the right hand side, start shooting them, and they're staring over to the left. No one's come out on the left yet, but in his edit, they came out first. Then you cut over to the guys, like, we can't let this guy fight alone. It's like, well, you have been doing for quite a while at this point. And then they charge out, and those are the enemies that the people on the bridge were meant to be fighting. But he edited it backwards and got it all mixed up.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like the goofball screaming lady. She's a trained rebel in theory. She has a gun. She comes out at like the fucking third act of the fight. It's like,
Yeah,
yo,
like, what's she doing all that time?
why were you not involved? What the hell plan?
I also
is this?
didn't understand where she was until the very, very end of that scene in conjunction of like everything, because the way he edited it, I didn't know if she was in that room where like the women and children were supposed to be. You're talking about the one with like the fake lightsabers, right?
No, I meant
the
screaming
one
lady
with
from the
the
first
red.
one.
Oh.
The one who loves Ray
Who's the screaming
Fisher.
lady?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
the one that found the rocket launcher right behind the tank that needed to be
The one with the
destroyed.
unhinged jaw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that.
The one who, when she finally revealed her position, I think she shot her gun like 3 times, and then she had to displace. And then she never used the gun again.
Yeah.
And she shot the tank rather than the infantry around the tank that she could actually damage.
Oh, she
Well,
was
I mean,
awful.
I guess, yeah.
There's one gun in the second
bazooka
one.
thing.
Yeah, there's one gun in the second one, which is literally just, it looks like a 1750 blunderbuss. And then you just put like a little laser electric charge in it. And it's so surreal. I couldn't get my
That,
head
yeah,
around it.
that is baffling. Again, it's,
There is
it's
a-
Zack Snyder, and if you asked him, like, why do you have laser guns that are like function like
bolt
muskets?
action and lever action.
Yeah.
We got.
And on the
I
ship,
know,
they're
right?
about
He
to
would
shoot
probably
the
just-
big gun, and it's like literally one of those little sort of iron little wheel things that he turns.
God,
Yeah, it's like
so-
this weird combination of World War I technology with like hyper advanced space travel.
He would
Really
probably
weird.
tell you, like, oh, you probably don't know this, but Star Wars actually had a lot of designs inspired from Will. And you're just like, shut up, Zach. Shut the fuck up.
There's one scene in the first film where, speaking of music, they go into the village and there's like the most generic Hobbiton type of music with like fiddles and stompy drums and stuff. And are those musicians there or not? Are there 20 people with fiddles and drums? Because at one point he says, "Eat more music," and then the music starts up again. So who are those 20 dudes in the background with fiddles and drums?
What I love about this movie as well, the way it does character development. So it seamlessly blends it into the story.
Incredible.
They definitely don't have a scene where the characters all gather around a table and just literally lay out their backstories one after the other.
Is there anything worse than that?
They do.
Is there a better example of how bad that was in anything else ever that's of this kind of budget? He practically, literally prompts them to explain their backstories, and then they all do it one by one. Surely this is still worse than that, because they at least have reason to actually say it in Suicide Squad, right? They're describing their profiles.
No, I mean like the bar scene in Suicide Squad.
I forget. Exactly.
Like at the end of the second half.
I remember what you're talking about. But I still, even if like that one would still score under this one, surely, because this one is just, I don't know how you can get worse than this, where it's an explicit, tell me your backstory now, please. And I've done mine. You're next.
It would be bad enough if it was just one character, it would still be terrible. But the fact that it's all of them, just one after the other.
You know my favorite one was Gouda, where he was like, "Tell me your backstory." He's like, "I don't know. I'm just a farmer. I'm chill." Like, yeah, I've really got me like crazy backstory, I guess.
Imagine Jaws, but there's 4 other people in the boat, and you were on the Indianapolis, but I was on the Yorktown, and we were also sunk, and there were also sharks, and you had like 4 of them go around. That's basically what it was.
It's like they all just fucking hate sharks.
Same story.
They've repeated the backstory so much now that I want, when we finally get to Belisarius in part 6, I want him to reveal his backstory, where he was on a happy farming planet once upon a time as a kid, and his whole family got gunned down by the Imperium Mechanicum Mechalicum, and his whole life he's just been trying to take over it so that he can destroy it from within. Be like, oh no way! Your backstory is like the same as everyone else's. It's so
That
cool.
He's sympathetic.
So much in common.
But by the 10th film, it'll be I was the little blonde boy who had some weird little slow motion cameo.
The thing is, he would approach like the main character and be like, "We're not so different, you and I." Like classic, and Zack Snyder would be convinced that was like fantastic, right? And like, oh my god, see, they're just mirror images of each other, the hero and the villain. It's poetry. Carry on, Zach.
That scene had one point.
Monster would have that backstory as well.
The point of that scene was to literally, they were all going, you cannot surrender to these people, because if you surrender, they will just take your surrender and then do what they wanted to do anyway. And then 5 minutes later, they go up to her and go, "Do you want to surrender? Because otherwise we're going to harm all your people."
Like, yeah. And
she immediately starts to surrender. And it's like, the one point of that scene was to everybody to get together and goes, whatever happens, we are fighting to the death. And she immediately betrays them. Like, to me, Cora is the villain of this entire movie. Like,
but what? Yeah, this was baffling. Like, after building everyone up and saying, we have to stand and fight, we've got to do this, the moment she gets into the first negotiation with the villain, it's like, okay, I fold. I give up.
Well, that was going to happen in the first movie too, because she was on this planet for 2 years. She sees a sign of trouble, and she says, "I'm out of here." And one thing she notices that girl that's getting assaulted, so she steps in and then completely changes her tactics and what she's going to do. So this is almost like in line with her character to make impulsive decisions given new information.
It's good that she took the time to give herself a fucking swanky haircut before the big battle scene. Like, that was really time well spent. Yeah.
Trope.
Someone mentioned, because we brought up, like, this, like, why did she do that? And we said, like, symbolically, why would she want to return to the haircut she had when she worked for them? And someone said, oh, well, she wants to have the cut that they have so that she can sneak by them better. And I was like, well, but she needs to not look like she looks, because she's the most famous fucking person on that ship. Like, they've all been set to hunt her. She is the most wanted woman in the galaxy. It's like, why would you want to look like you do in all your bounty hunter posters? It's like, well, just match the haircut. It's like, well, does that even matter? The second they take her mask off, she just kills everybody in the room anyway.
Honestly, I don't know if it's a Gen Z thing, but when she got that haircut again, there's the Imperium private who turns. who's a guy. And honestly, I had to struggle for like 5 seconds at a time to distinguish which one is a male and which one is a female out of those two characters when they were on screen. It's really
No, I
hard
mean,
work.
she does have quite a masculine face when she's got short hair, and he's got a very feminine look about him. So yeah, I kind of get what you mean. You know, the other thing I found fantastic about her plan was they God, I can't believe I'm saying this. So they salvaged the ship that she arrived on the planet in, right? And they were like, oh, it's in bad shape because it crash landed. And it's literally just got a bird's nest in the engine outlet. And then they pull that out and it's fully functional again. So it's fine.
Okay, I've heard that in the extended version, it's the robot that fixes it, okay?
Oh, fuck off, Zack Snyder.
Anthony Robotkins.
The point being, though, right, you've got this asset that the enemy doesn't know you have, and it's quite a powerful asset. You've got air cover, and you can do a lot with that if you're able to catch your enemy unawares, like a strafing run against their ships while they're all landed on the ground. Like you could take them all out in a single run. So instead of having that to hand and ready to go, they stash it away in a cave behind a waterfall, which is a good couple of miles away from the village. And the only person who can pilot it is in the village. So if they do need it, she's going to have to, well, this is what they have to do. She has to run out of the village all the way up to the cave, start the thing up, and then get into it, and then fly it off. I don't feel like you're making good use of this thing.
The timing has to be very specific, because she has to link up information with ships which are going back. So you've got, like, the first wave of the fight is the only time she has. And if she misses that, that's it. It's over. So, I still don't understand why she went back to town in the first place.
Yeah, as well. Like that whole plan of like, oh, I'm just going to go into formation behind them and pretend that I'm a damaged ship. Like, wouldn't your ship have transponders and stuff so that they can like identify you and know that you're actually a friendly?
It would have to have a unique identification, and they would have to have basically blacklisted that ship. They'd have been like, if this ship is ever detected, alert, because it's the one that she left on. It's so like, but stuff like that, I'm like, why would I even entertain thinking about that in a science fiction story when the amount of stuff he gets wrong that's like kindergarten level.
But was Anthony Hopkins' android waiting up there behind the waterfall?
I don't know. Why are we
going to arrive?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why are we supposed to think of him as like a good heroic robot when he watched everyone suffer and die for like an hour? He was just like,
yeah, he's horrible, but I also just don't get the character. I don't get what he's supposed to represent. I don't get why he's in the story at all, because they give him basically no development. He runs off after the first 20 minutes of the first movie and he's never seen again. Then he shows up periodically in this to do nothing, and then he fights in the final battle for like 2 minutes just to kill some nameless grunts, and then again fucks off.
Because
like, what is the point of him?
He looks cool to Zack Snyder, so it's like a visual representation of Rebel Moon.
If you have a robot character who's significant and strong and going to make a difference, but has to make some choices, you're like, oh, I see. We're going to be doing the thing of like artificial intelligence. Maybe how much of his feelings and so on. The other, it's like to show how much Zack just doesn't understand what the fuck he's doing. At the end of the film, when they all express how much they want to help Cora with her mission, the last one to join her is the robot, and he makes sure that everyone understands he has no choice. Like, I was like, why would you want to write it that way, Zack? You could have had him say, my programming would dictate that I need to protect the princess, and if she's alive, I must find her. But ultimately, like, that doesn't matter. This is something I'm choosing to do. Robot having some sentience, just like a sliver of meaning. But instead, he's just like, yeah, I'm coming because I have to.
You know how, as well, like his entire reason for existing is to protect the princess, the person that Cora murdered. Like, is that even addressed in the film?
No,
Does he ever deal with the fact that she actually killed that princess, or she thought she did?
This is an important point, because I've been with some weird chicks in my time, but if you're lying in bed with a woman who's telling you this long story about how she shot like an 11-year-old girl to death, then even at that point I'm going to go, okay, I'm just going to get up here and make a cup of coffee and leave. Like, that's pretty bad stuff.
What I wanted was at least some level of just him being like, why?
Like, yeah. It's just like he has the attitude of, we've all been through some shit. No, you killed a child in front of all these people.
Because she would be like, well, he told me to, and I trusted Belisarius.
Well, that was it. She said, I trusted him to protect me. So she had no problem doing it as long as she was held accountable for her actions.
She's a bad man.
I want to go back to Anthony Hopkins for a second. Like, his robot, it doesn't have a comedic function. It doesn't have like it's a slave kind of pathos function. I think the idea might have been that it's like the low point of the hero's journey, where it's like the wise sage character who comes in to just give a bit of encouragement, but they even fucked that up. So I don't know what that character was or
It's
why.
long form storytelling, Echo. It's going to
It'll
be a
make
movie
sense
6
in
payoff.
extended.
Yeah,
version.
I bet there's like an entire like hour-long sequence of him like going out finding the deer antlers
It
to stick
will-
onto his forehead. And
Probably
I
stuff.
in
will
slow-mo,
say,
too.
I have some curiosity about what is in the extended versions. It's just like, does he have things that explain what the fuck is going on, or do you think it makes it even more like complicated and terrible?
No, it's
There's
just the
an
entire.
adult
It's the
tentacle
exact
scene.
same movie. It's just all slow mo at that point. That's all he does.
Neat.
There's
Just
a
more
weird bit with the
bizarre,
robot.
confusing conflation between feudal elements of coal and grain and super sci-fi elements, which is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
There's also like at the end of the movie when General Titus steps out and he's like, "Hey, Cora, I knew all along that you were really
A child murderer.
yeah, and also she's alive." Like he knew all that, but he still risked the fact that like he was going to use grain as the deterrent when the dreadnought came back, even though he knew that wasn't really what
Well,
they were going to
remember-
ultimately want.
Remember when she's like, "Oh, when you kill an admiral, they have to go back," and Tyler's like, "Yeah, whatever." And then later on, when they're like, "No, they're not coming. They're still here," she's like, "What? Don't they have to do protocol?" And then Titus's like sage commentary on that is, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, sometimes death isn't enough for the machinations of the mother world.
You'd think that'd be a bigger
stupid.
deal, wouldn't you? Like sometimes they can come back to life from death.
Like I love how he just
Shoot a
fucking
daughter and
knows
she
all this
starts
stuff and never
glowing?
tells anybody.
Like not one person went, "Why is she glowing?"
Oh god.
I love as well. Like there's that whole sequence of like, what is the admiral called again? I can never remember his name.
Noble.
I don't know any of the names.
Admiral
Noble.
Noble. Yeah.
Really?
Noble.
Noble. Anyway, so like we already know he's alive from the end of the previous movie, right? So we get another sequence of him being brought back, and they're like, "Oh, he's got brain damage, and we don't know if he's going to function properly and stuff." And then there's a long sequence where he's arguing with people because he wants to be returned to duty, but protocol says he has to pass all the medical tests, and then he shoots the doctor, and then he just goes and does his thing anyway. There's no fallout from that. There's no consequences like, oh, maybe he is a little bit brain damaged and he's not 100%, or he's going to be super erratic now or unpredictable. It's like, no, he's fine. So that whole sequence, again, was a complete waste of time. Just like most of the things that happen in this movie. You're setting up things that have no payoff. You're showing us things we don't need to know, and you're wasting a lot of time doing it.
Yeah, directly in the middle of the movie, there's an entire minute of the film, and it's only an hour and 53 minutes long, barring credits. An entire minute of the film dedicated to it. It's absolutely unnecessary. Dedicated to the ships coming down from the dreadnought and landing in front of the people waiting for them. An entire minute of film. It's like the first hour of this movie is entirely about them prepping for that to happen, and it's just them like like bagging up the grain. There's nothing to this movie.
I've never seen a film with a less of a, or more of a deficit, I suppose, between derivative stuff, tropes, elements, and references, and actual originality. I've never seen a bigger deficit where it's almost down to 0%, and it creates this weird kind of aesthetic claustrophobia because everything is referential, everything is derivative, everything is shit. It's kind of like you can have apolitical or asexual. This is kind of a-creative, where there's literally nothing original in it.
The best thing I could describe Zack Snyder was he's an anti-genius. Like he understands, like I think,
He
the
lowers the
principles
amount
of
of
movie.
genius in the world.
But like he does the exact opposite of what is required to make a good film. It's impressive the degree to which he fucks things up.
I can support this point with a comparison, all right? Star Wars, A New Hope, ticking clock, famously known as, like, because of its editing, creates some maximum tension, really great blueprint for anybody, where the bad guys are getting real close to firing their weapon, but the good guys are also really close to destroying it. Oh boy, as the audience, will they do it? Will they do it? Will they do it? Then you have TFA, which is the shallow copy, where they have the, fucking whatever, giant Death Star Killer. It's going to destroy our home planet. And the reason that it was worse is because they don't have a target, but then there's just a throwaway scene where they go, oh, they found our planet and they're going to shoot at us now because I think it was like some scout ship got found. It's a throwaway line in Snoke's chamber, and it's just like, ugh. Because, Star Wars set it all up. TFA just throws it in with throwaway line, desperately trying to get that same ticking clock. However, Rebel Moon, Zach coming in, being like, I can do even worse than that. So he's like, set it up. Oh, we're going to blow them up now. Here we go. And then slowly cranking those fucking wheels. And it's like, so what are we there sitting like, oh, come on, Cora, get the job done. She plants all the explosives. And we're like, so what's the thrust? It's like, it's literally just a timer. And you're like, okay. Like, did she win? And it's like, yes, she won.
The process like, the process as well of like aiming the big artillery guns at the village is so slow, and it's like I feel like they recycled the same shot multiple times where it's like it's tracking left and then it tracks down, and it's like it's never getting any closer to the actual target. It just keeps moving.
But this was another time where I overestimated him because as it was setting it up and things were revealed and there was the bombs there all along, I thought she set it up so that when they fired the guns, that detonated the mines, and so they kind of caused their own destruction. It's like, no, it's literally just timed perfectly to be 1 second beforehand and stuff.
Yeah, because they nearly destroyed it.
Script and then
if she was just 5 seconds too late, the whole fucking village would have been blown. Yeah. And the funny thing is, you'd be like, see, ticking clock. You're like, no, anti-genius. That's not how it works. None of the fucking audience members know any of this. We're just watching being like, are the bombs good to go? What are they tied to? No one said anything. And then it just shows a timer on them going down, and then it like clicks, and they're done. And you're like, oh, okay, we did it. Woohoo. It's like he's seen movies before. He's made movies before, but he doesn't seem to know what the fuck he's doing.
I like how the ship elongates to the length of 10 football fields when it goes onto that slope, and they're doing their final big fight with the not lightsabers, and they're just sliding down and down and down and down. Never stops. What is all that empty space in the ship?
Gravity changed.
Like when it's meant to be a hangar, I suppose, but it's got nothing in it.
Like, she at one point is holding herself up like this, but she's actually vertical to gravity, so all the weight is on one arm. And then he charges her, knocks her back, and she falls down, and the gravity bends round to hit the floor, and his gravity is wherever his camera turns. Because then he turns the camera again, and she starts sliding down again. It was bizarre. They can't track anything.
So fantastic film then. 10 out of 10 overall.
10-10.
The cargo hold becomes bigger.
The end of that hangar where she lands on his spine and just
But the cargo hold surreally becomes, in an MC Escher way, becomes big enough to actually contain the ship in its normal proportions. That's how big that cargo hold becomes.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Nemesis's sacrifice for the child.
Oh, she was awful at fighting.
I mean, she was really bad.
Which one?
I mean, this is... She's the lightsabers.
To be fair, she lost to the Spider Lady too. She needed help against the Spider Lady, didn't she?
I can't believe she's called fucking Nemesis.
Oh, yeah, and that was the scene I was talking about where I couldn't tell where the hell she was in conjunction with anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, because there's a shot where she's fighting, but it cuts to that from like a child like standing behind a desk and he's holding a knife. And then it cuts away to this, but because everything, whether it's outside, inside, everything's so damn brown, like you actually don't know where she is. I didn't know until she died that all these kids, all these people were just standing back watching her die. And then when she dies, like the kid comes up and actually talks to her. I didn't know for those 3 minutes she was even protecting anybody. I thought she was just fighting somebody.
Yeah. And it's funny because the movie really expects us to care about her. Like, oh no, she gave her life to protect the children. What a hero. I'm so sad that she's gone. I just didn't feel anything because I didn't care about this character. I didn't know anything about her.
She's also like every character, kind of contradictory because revenge is good and revenge is bad, and revenge is good and revenge is bad.
I'm driven by revenge, but don't let revenge consume you. But I'm still driven by revenge. Yeah. The weirdest backstory was like the shampoo commercial Tarzan guy with the hippogriff from Harry Potter. Yeah, and it goes back to his timeline, and he's from some aristocratic family where it's literally like people are wearing bowler hats and they have canes, like from London.
I so didn't understand it as well. It's like, so they came to attack my planet and then my mom killed herself to keep everyone safe.
I don't know. Nobody knows what the fuck that was.
Let's just move on from that one.
Yeah. My mom's Indian as well, and I don't know what was going on there. That was weird.
I don't know. How can you even concentrate on it when it's like, oh yeah, I'm still dealing with the fact that Nemesis learned how to fight from the blood of her in the gauntlets, the echoes of her past. It's like, how the fuck do you even deal with that before you're like, well, welcome to a whole other world, a whole other backstory with a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. Did
And
she
it's
really
like,
need to chop
could we
off her
please-
entire forearm to get a bit of blood for those swords? Couldn't you just opened up a little cut?
Well, because you have to obviously attach the gauntlet to the stump, and I just thought, what if you fucked it up and it's like you ended up with a completely like wrongly shaped
No
arm
elbow.
or whatever? Yeah, or like, can we not invent gauntlets that you just wear on your actual arms instead of having to slice them off? That just seems unnecessary.
Well, especially because as well, after the first one, you'd be like, oh, so she probably lost both of her arms in some kind of accident or in a fight with some other swordsman or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're like, no, she cut them off.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay.
And underneath all of this, you've got a music which is a mixture of Clannad and Enya just mushed up together in artificial intelligence. Terrible.
Oh,
Shocking
all
all
done in
around.
slow-mo as well.
And great.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, that was it.
Well,
That was
what do you
Rebel
guys
Moon
think
Part 2.
of the prospect of him getting a third/more of them?
He'll get a third, I think.
I think one of his issues for me is I could never care about a lot of the characters, especially the bad guys, because they all get defeated just because they're thick, right? Like, if they just stop choking people, they'd actually win these fights. But every bad guy gets defeated. The Spider got defeated by them. With the swords in that thing, he died because he was also choking someone. The big villain at the end dies because he wants, open your eyes, and he's choking her rather than doing everything else. Like, if they just... you can't... It's almost like unearned if you just take advantage of someone when they're being an idiot. It doesn't make you feel like heroic or anything. And I think he's going to keep doing that in all the other movies.
You know when Guna stabs him in the back, it is very close to her head to the point where if Noble just pulled up her head, she'd be dead.
That would have been the most hilarious kill of all time. It's like you're trying to save your girlfriend and you fucking impale her head.
Yeah, then he like makes it, and they go, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, Noble killed her." Oh man, it was horrible.
What?
He's a bastard.
Help me out with this one, right? As well, at one point she steals one of the not lightsabers from someone that she kills, and she picks it up by the hilt, so the bit that you're meant to use, and it's burning hot to the point where she actually burns her hand on it, and she has to wrap it with.
Yeah, you got to wear gloves.
Or just make the hilt not out of metal.
Yeah, like why? Again, why design it like that? Why even have that scene? What is any of this? What is this movie?
But you're right, Cynic. There's moments like where you've got references overlapped and piled on top of each other, like the Romanovs and Julius Caesar at the same time, in the context of Seven Samurai, in the context of Battle Beyond the Stars,
Yeah.
all happening at the same time.
Red Wedding as well. Throw in Red Wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's he knows what he wants, but he can't make it. Gosh darn it!
Plus, if you come into a situation,
I think he's straight up. He is making what he wants. It's just what he wants is not what anyone else wants.
I guess so. He sees it as something. I guess we all see what it is, but he's happy with it. He's and you know what? I have seen there are accounts saying they're happy with it. There are fans of his saying this is a fucking amazing movie.
Well, here's a good question,
nice,
right? If you were a kid, if you were like a naive and stupid teen, would you think this was actually pretty cool because you didn't know all the references? No,
I
think I would have been bored.
I had enough taste at 13 to not like this movie.
Yeah, I don't know how many like 12 or 13-year-olds are going to be enamored with the 20, 30-minute shots of grain.
Honestly, though, if you watch the original Star Wars and then watch Rebel Moon, I feel like you'd say like, man, that second one was shit. If you're a kid, you're just watching movies.
That whole second film could have been scrunched down into like a half-hour episode of a series. That entire second film.
I mean, it's just the whole crux of it is just the battle scene, and like everything else is just the prep for that, and most of the prep is pointless. And yeah, harvesting scenes in slow motion.
Yeah, I mean, what good was bringing back the villain for the second movie? He's dead again. So it was pretty much...
Yeah, it's the Kylo Ren problem where it's like you've already beaten him, so you've established that he's not really that much of a threat, so why is he going to be a threat this time around?
And they didn't like juice him up or power him up or anything.
It's just like Megatron. He's Megatron. He gets defeated every episode and comes back every episode. So.
Can I just say as well, just before we go on, I passed a little milestone, as chat are now reminding me. I've just reached 2 million subscribers, as Flav says. Congrats, you just passed 2 million. Hail to the panel and hail chat. Thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate all 2 million of you. Thank you.
We need that Gary clapping
congrats, dude.
sound. You know, the that's the sound of millions of people very happy right now.
You need to get Dan Bass to sing a song that he doesn't want to.
Yeah. No, that's
And
cool.
what-
So thank you.
What a way to celebrate as well. Talking about Rebel Moon. That's just
So I got you over the hump.
It truly is, yeah. It's just like everyone was united in their condemnation of that film. But
Well, you
that's
have
probably a good point to leave Rebel Moon behind, actually, so we can move on to happier things, possibly. But, well, yeah, this is going to depend on what you guys have to say, because I haven't seen it yet, but the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is out. And it didn't have the greatest of opening weekends. I think it took in like 9 million on its opening, which is not very good. But the audience score seems to be quite high. So I guess for the guys that have seen it on the panel, what's your impressions of it?
Echo, you want to go first?
Well, it's based off real events of a real commando squad in the darkest years of World War II. And it's also very kind of like a confection, a kind of lightweight film with action scenes full of implausible kills and everything. And I'm not quite sure how I feel about the juxtaposition of those two things. Like if you have a Inglourious Bastards, it's World War II, but it's not actually based on real events per se. So you got more leeway to be to have goofy elements or not realistic elements. Whereas this, if you have actual real life events where there are actual consequences and stakes, then you have this kind of lightweight, goofy, very playful atmosphere. It's a little bit jarring. Everyone's fun. It's a confection of a film. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone contributes. It's got the worst Winston Churchill I've ever seen, and I've probably seen about a dozen of them. He's terrible. So yeah, I mean, it's fine if you want a diversion for a couple of hours. You'll get a few laughs and a few gags. It's very tropey, very set piecey, and that's about it really. There's not too much you can say about it. There was one character who's an actual crazy character. In real life, he was quite a maverick and quite a live wire. And in his post-war report, he just said, landed, killed some Germans, fucked off. That was his military report. So yeah, it's fun. It's a fun diversion. If you want to check it out, but don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, I would agree. I wrote down, it's like breezy for a World War II movie, Inglourious Bastards light. That's definitely the vibe. I mean, it's captured by the fact that it takes place in World War II. So aesthetically, it looks a lot like Inglourious Bastards, even in the advertisements, which again, like you're captured by the, the World War II era aesthetics there. But the acting is really good. It's typical Guy Ritchie, really. It's what you expect. I think with a lot of his movies, they are really breezy. The dialogue's really quippy and punchy, but kind of forgettable, or not something that's going to stick with you long term. And that really is what this movie is. I know why it opened to $9 million, and it's because, well, most of his movies don't really open large anyway. Aladdin doesn't really count, where it made like $1 billion because it has the IP behind it in Disney, and it was 2019 where everything was making that much money. But his movies usually don't. It kind of seems like it's in that range. It was even made for $60 million, so it was like it was lower budgeted. I'm sure they weren't expecting 9 million, but I wouldn't go to the theater to watch this. I would watch this at home. So it seems like it made about as much as it probably should. Like if this came out 10 years ago, it probably would be a movie that you'd want to go to the theaters to see, but it's just not that way anymore. Like this feels like it belongs on streaming.
I think it's too big scale for him. Sorry, Disparu. I just think the world is a bit too big scale. Like you want a lock stock thing where it's kind of smaller scale and intermittent character development and stuff, and you can really work on the aesthetics. Yeah. Whereas this is jumping around for too many storylines, and the stakes kind of feel forced, and the historical kind of relativism is really strange. So I don't think it's quite the right fit for him.
If I'd gone to the cinema like 20 years ago and seen this movie, I would have been really disappointed because there would have been way better movies that you could see. I liked about a third of the movie, and it is their group. It's the guys when they're together, their conversation, their sort of banter. I like the action scenes that they did, and I liked Henry Cavill when he was communicating with everyone, and there's a whole scene of all the people. He's just completely ignoring them and just nicking random parts and completely disrespecting his bosses. But it's like, you need me, what are you gonna do, kind of thing. And that's kind of why they chose him. I thought their sections were great. There's also like a second movie running concurrently, which I don't think has any place in the movie at all. And it's the guy and the woman, and all their basic scenes, they're not needed for the plot. They don't really do anything. And it feels like tacked on. It's like, well, we've got all these guys here. Well, we're going to need something else because we can't just have a film about men killing people. And so they added that in. And I felt the same when, I don't know if you've seen The Beekeeper, but in that, I liked his action scenes. I liked his entire storyline, but there's also this weird police scene which runs parallel to it and has absolutely no purpose being in the movie. And so I felt like I was watching two separate timelines, and one of them shouldn't have been there. And I think if you cut all of that and just had more of the guys, then you would have ended up with something more like The Expendables or something, and it would have been, I would have really liked it.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I thought so it follows essentially like the people who are going to be doing the objective mission itself, and then the people who have to do all the espionage action, because like they're trying to essentially they're trying to blow up what is it called, a U-ship or something along those lines? I don't remember a U-boat. So they're trying to blow that up. So they need someone to basically do the distraction. They're gonna have a party, and then Henry Cavill and his gang are gonna do the actual mission. So you're following those two stories. And I actually really enjoyed the lead actress's performance. But at one point I wrote down, like, why are we still with these people? Like, we're still here. I actually really liked Henry Cavill. I thought he was really funny. And I appreciated that it was just a crew of 4 with them. So I was like, oh, maybe we'll actually get to have a really strong banter with these characters. But they stuck with the other two the majority of the time. And you really didn't need to. That wasn't even the selling point of the movie.
Yeah, the seductress scenes and that whole plot element was really tedious after a while. And you could, in your own head, I mean, in your own head, you could tell, I know exactly what this is going to do. I know what the plot beats are. And you're right, like it should have been done like an Ocean's 11 kind of thing, where you got zippy little montages between the things and how people coordinated and get a bit of momentum to it. But it was so sluggish during those scenes.
I think, based on what you're describing, I think a World War II movie done in that style, it's like a heist. We've got to plan it. We've got all the kind of crazy plans that we've got to implement to make it happen. And like this big diverse team of people with different skills, like that could be a lot of fun. I think that would work nicely by itself.
Well, it seemed like the other group were literally there to be the diverse group, the ones on the island.
Because they paired them together that way.
They're literally talking to the mid-century Germans. We know how they'd act, but they were like clapping back at them when they're leaders. It's like, you were just got shot in the head. They're not going to have your mouth back at them. What is it? And there were some very weird comments. And the way she gets found out is she's just singing a song. And at one bit, she sings Yiddish rather than German. And you're like, you're a professional spy and you don't even know what language you're
it's
speaking?
like Inglourious Bastards. That scene reminded me of Inglourious Bastards, where the bar scene when he gave himself away, when he said Tre Grazia or whatever.
But that was a very subtle thing.
Right, that was subtle, and it was really good. And this was just, I'm just like, this is like a shitty version of that.
The Great Escape. The Great Escape has a similar thing when he's talking to a guy, they're going through all in German, and then as he's walking away, he says something like, have a good day. Yeah.
No, he says,
and
good luck to
thank
him.
you. And he trips him up. Whereas in this, she's just singing a song. She's under no pressure at all. And she just sings in a different language for a bit,
lyric
for some reason.
that's Yiddish, and that tips him off.
Yeah.
So the problem there is that you can never quite settle, because most of the people in the cast are caricatures, so you can't take them seriously and the stakes aren't very high. But that the black guy and the woman are more trying to be fully fledged characters. And so you get this weird push and pull, which doesn't quite sit right. So that was a big flaw in the film.
They struck me a lot of the time as the writers going, well, if I was there, this is what I would have said. I would have told them what for. It's like, no, you wouldn't. And if you did, you'd be dead. And so everything about those scenes just kind of grated.
Yeah, there was that scene where she's sitting and talking with the main villain, who is played by a brilliant actor. I can't remember his name. He's more of like a character actor. You've seen him a million times. But again, it was almost like that a scene in Inglourious Bastards where he's like where Landa was talking with the girl that escaped at the beginning of the movie, who ends up burning down the theater. It reminded me of that scene, just not done as well, or a little more forced. And I don't like that in movies when it reminds me of better films. It's just not. And especially when you know a movie like this is going to be compared to something like Inglourious Bastards so much, because it's the exact same idea. And I know this was based on the true story, but weren't those files uncovered in like 2014 and Inglourious came out in like 2009? So I don't even know if that was coincidence or anything, but regardless, like the comparison's going to happen.
It's a shame because like Guy Ritchie at his peak, I think would be a good match for Quentin Tarantino in terms of like smart, quippy dialogue, like really inventive filmmaking. But from what you're describing here, this is not peak Guy Ritchie.
No,
no.
Which is
the
weird.
The worst
The
parts of the
Gentleman
movie I
was pretty
really
strong.
liked. It's just you needed to cut a load out and focus on the good bits. Is kind of the problem.
Yeah. He's a weird one.
There's
as well,
a few
because,
times
like,
I laughed out loud too. It's nice to actually like watch a movie and there are a few scenes where I burst out laughing. So
like especially the Henry Cavill scenes. Like if you ever like I like Cavill, like he was decent in this movie. It is a case of this is what Hollywood should have been doing all along, kind of thing. When you see him do these kind of roles.
But I don't like seeing him doing these roles. I don't like him in Argyle or in this, where it's kind of a little sort of campy and lightweight, and he just feels like
He was
he's
good in The Man from
squandering.
Uncle. That's a similar kind of thing.
Just feels like he's squandering himself. It's kind of weird.
I mean, I assume he gets a bit more screen time than he did in Argyle, which was like 4 minutes or something.
Yeah, he is the leader in this, so like, he takes
he
a
is,
role.
but I would still argue he doesn't really get a lot of screen time because of the fact. I mean, in comparison to what you'd expect, because of the fact that second story steals away so much of the runtime.
But if you just focus on the scenes with all the guys, if you kind of could extend that to a full movie, then he would take like the primary role in the movie. It would have been a great movie.
You needed to have them sitting around a table and elaborately discussing how the Nazis had come to their village when they were young.
That's a great. There was a really weird bit actually where they're talking about how he reinforced the ship, and they start to go, "You can't. That's not how that works. You can't just reinforce the ship. You can't just stick steel plates in it and have it be armored." And then one guy basically just goes, "Turn your brain off. It'll be fine." It's like he's talking to the audience that were about to get sneaky to. It was quite weird.
It's like that bit in Austin Powers where they're talking about time travel and all the paradoxes you can cause, and it's just like,
oh my god, I've gone blind.
Just go back there and have fun, Austin, and don't worry too much about it. And that goes for you too.
It's because they did push back. There was a guy going, "Yeah, but how does it work?" He's like, "No, just stop." And then they just carry on. It's weird.
I was Alan Richardson in it as well, because people don't seem to like him anymore, and they seem to be kind of rooting for the movie to fail just because of him. And
that was a shame that happened in literal fucking days.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. He was actually pretty funny in this movie, but he doesn't have a major role. But what he does have, his lines are pretty quippy and pretty funny. I mean, he's supposed to be playing
He's supposed to be playing a 19-year-old, which is really strange.
What?
Yeah, because he's like
what?
mid-40s.
I didn't get that at all. I didn't know that.
Really?
I mean, I know people generally looked older back in like the 40s, but not that old.
Yeah.
If you know that your audience is primarily a kind of like a very kind of dude-ish thing, then maybe don't go on social media and kind of diss their interests and stuff. It's like it's not that much of a big thing to try and restrain yourself for. Very strange.
Yeah, I'm not a separate the art from the artist kind of person. I think it's kind of natural that I have this, like, it's like with the Hulk. Whenever I see him, all I see is a Twitter feed, and it does affect my ability with the character. So I think that actors should probably just keep quiet, because it's the best way you can do it, and that way you're not going one way or the other. But in this movie, like, he's a talented actor and he plays the part well. So depends how attached you are to the comments.
I feel so sorry for my conservative friends who really got a beef with Mark Hamill now. That must be so difficult. No, Luke Skywalker, don't.
For me, it's like, because I saw the Star Wars stuff before, Mark Hamill, it doesn't really affect me, and he does a lot of voiceover work and stuff. I think for me, it's more when new stuff comes out, if someone's really been going hard, you don't like the person, and so when the movie comes out, it's like, I already kind of don't like the movie. I'm like predisposed not to go and see it. So it's rather than the movie being spoilt for you because of it, it's like, no, I just won't go.
Man, I prefer it that way as opposed to actors just getting fired for what they say. So that'll allow me to actually make the choice if I want to go see the movie or not.
It depends on what you say, though, I suppose, whether or not you get fired.
There are boundaries, but
yeah.
Depends on what you say, how much you say it, who you say it about, where you said it, why you said it. Because that's the thing, right? People speculating whether or not he did it to ingratiate himself with potential other groups. Could also just be something he wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fair enough. And I guess regardless of whether, what side of the political divide you happen to be on, if you're an actor, my advice would always be the same. Just shut the fuck up and just do movies and talk about the movies. Talk about how
there are
fun
a
it
couple
was.
actors out there who advise that, but nobody listens to them.
Yep.
No one wants to listen to Keanu.
Yeah.
Isn't it Kurt Russell, Keanu, and I think Anthony Hopkins has said something along these lines. Like, actors, we're all idiots. It's like we just
yeah.
And I think all three of them are. I would say people are generally chill with Anthony Hopkins, Kurt Russell, and Keanu Reeves. Like I don't think there's too many haters out there for them. So, it's probably worth keeping in mind, actors. If for some reason any of you are watching Open Bar, which is pretty unlikely.
Imagine if they'd done it in the old days, like Paul Newman says, "I'm really, sticking with Richard Nixon. I think he's great, and I like all the policies he's done for the country." It would have been so weird.
Yeah,
they could keep their mouth shut back then.
It's social media, man. It's just social media. It gives us too much insight into their thought process, which is very limited in most cases. And just there's a lot to be said for the mystique of actors when they didn't talk much, and then you just assumed that they were deep thinkers.
So it's like a speed run of Don't Meet Your Heroes, because you could just get a full it's like, what have they said about these topics? Oh, I hate them now.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to put this one up as well. It was just for another person wishing me well from Xerxes. Gave us $200 in a super chat. Says, "Happy 2 million drinker. Drinks are on me." Thank you very much, my friend. I really appreciate that. And here's to you. Thank you.
Cheers.
You have as many subscribers as more than half the population of my country.
That's pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I will be the Emperor of New Zealand, if that's okay with you. I think
that's what we call that a good start.
Yeah. Once I have all of New Zealand in my grasp.
Yeah, you're welcome to it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of an interesting contrast again. What you guys are telling us about Ministry. I'm definitely going to watch it and probably review it because I'm interested enough in it that I still want to see it. It seems like it's kind of entertaining with a few caveats, which is fair enough. But yeah, I'll be curious to see what it's like to experience.
I mean, you could do worse for sure.
Yeah.
You could see Godzilla X Kong again.
Oh, yeah. Great fun.
What are your guys' thoughts on what you can do with actual canonical real life past? How goofy and slapstick and silly and exaggerated and heightened can you?
This is a tricky one.
If you're the descendants of these people and you see, your forebears acting in goofy, heightened, exaggerated ways like this, I don't know. It must be a little bit weird.
It's tricky because you get things like, the example we've all cited here, Inglourious Bastards, where there's sort of dark comedic undertones to it, and it just completely rewrites history because it's an alternate reality thing. Same with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I guess. And it works as a piece of art, and it's fun if it's well made, but clearly, it doesn't represent reality very effectively. So I don't know. It just depends how important that is to you when the agreement between you and the filmmaker isn't we're going to be historically accurate with this. If it's made clear this is not trying to represent key historical events, then I don't know. It's a different ball game for me.
This think it's in documentary. The specifically part, you can tell it's an American film. There's a bit where they go, well, the Americans, they need to come over here and save us because we're just the English. We can't do anything about this. So there's a whole kind of bigging things up. And I see it much like you can tell a joke about anything. I don't think there's any joke that's too far. I think you can literally say it about anything at all. And it's the same with this. It's not a documentary. It's an entertaining movie. And it's kind of not parodying, but it's not taking itself seriously at all. But then you have a lot of the royal documentaries and stuff where they've been. This is supposed to be real life. We're trying to represent it. By the way, we're also going to race swap the Queen. That's a different.
Well,
thing.
you know, like
to be serious.
Napoleon would be a good example, like the Ridley Scott film, where it is hypothetically a biopic. It's historically accurate and it's a representation of Napoleon's life and career. And it's complete fucking fiction. And most of the things that it shows either didn't happen or they happened in a completely different way from what you see in the film. That's when the filmmaker breaks his agreement with you, because he has sold you one thing and delivered something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't actually any cannonballs fired at the pyramids, but he just said, no, but it's still, it's just generally the vibe of it. You can't have a film which is the vibe of history. I think that's my problem.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't even know that this was a proper historical thing until you said it was a true story that happened. That's how sort of wacky the film is. I don't think many people will have known that.
It's so wacky.
The best thing I can equate this to, I think, from what you've described, would be like the death of Stalin, where on the face of it, like it seems completely farcical and like there's no way they actually did these things. And then you actually look into the historical records, it's like, oh, actually the film is surprisingly accurate and a lot of this stuff really did happen, but it's presented in quite a comedic way, a dark comedy for sure, but like comedic all the same, and that works extremely well. It's just a case of like the tone that you want to take when you approach this piece of work. You know, if it's well made, well presented, and it's authentic to what it purports to be, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, the tone of this movie is like there's a line in it where he goes, so there's 200 Germans over there. That's about 15 each. Steve, don't be greedy. And then they just walk off and start shooting people.
Yeah.
The death of Stalin's a good analogy. I think there's the idea you can play with the energy of an autocratic regime as tight and paranoid as that, has a surreal fast to it. So you're playing with that energy in a kind of droll and interesting and fun way. So I think there's a kind of agreement and contract you can understand with the audience there, heightened by good actors and stuff. So I think that fits quite snugly into that, whereas this is more, I don't know, doesn't quite fit properly. And plus that was more stagey. That's more in the death of Stalin, just basically in rooms with machinations and comedy chops and characterization and stuff. Whereas this is jumping around from physical action scenes and stuff like that with, thousands of people getting mowed down. So the death of Stalin works in that way, in good ways, and shows that you can do it. Whereas this one showed that it has limitations and can be jarring.
Fair dues. Well, the other thing that's come out just the other day was the first proper trailer for Deadpool 3. I know we had the teaser for it, and then we got the legit trailer. And I have to admit, it actually looks pretty good. I watched this trailer and I was quite pleased with what I was seeing. It really toned down the TVA stuff. It's the time variance authority, isn't it? Like,
well, I mean,
things from Loki. So
he's killing them in the trailer, so that makes everyone happy, I think.
Thank God.
Yeah, and it didn't focus too much on that, but obviously it is a multiverse story. This is like an alternate Wolverine where he's got the authentic costume and stuff. But it actually looks pretty fun. The interplay between Wolverine and Deadpool looks pretty good. The action looks decent. I was liking it, I must admit. I can't show you the trailer with audio because there's loads of licensed songs and stuff in it, so it's just designed to kill you for copyright. But I'll kind of jump around a little bit in it as we go. I can just show you bits or whatever. But yeah, I don't know what you guys' thoughts were on it.
The use of Madonna's Like a Prayer was pitch perfect. For melodrama and comedy, I thought it was brilliant. The interplay between these two looks fantastic. I'm really going to enjoy watching this film just to see these two guys play off each other. It's going to be great.
Should be some heart in this film, and I think it's going to stand in great contrast to everything that we've been getting lately for the superhero entries. The fact that you've got Hugh Jackman bringing back once again Wolverine, who he's so familiar with at this point that I can't imagine they would do anything drastic or disrespectful or horrifying to him. I feel like especially combined with Ryan Reynolds, who's got a particular investment in all of this, and he's not so unplugged. I think he's got some awareness of how everyone's feeling and probably knows what to make fun of, at least to some extent. There's so many opportunities for jokes here, so much opportunity for making fun of the state of everything. I'm really hoping we get some jokes about, like, box office numbers. It would be funny. But I guess, it comes down to what do we truly expect this to be? At best, I'd probably end up saying, like, man, I really liked their performances. I found it funny at times, but it was still nonsense. That's
Well,
probably
it sounds
what's
like
gonna
the
be.
movie we just talked about. It's like how I left off on that one too.
I'm trying to avoid hating on it too much, but I'm just saying, like, keep your hopes in a reasonable place.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
excited for it, but it looks exactly like you would expect it to be after you walked into Deadpool 2 and they said they were going to make a Deadpool 3. Like, it looks how it's supposed to, and I know that's a low bar, but the bar is that low, and I'm happy that it does, because it could have been way worse.
I don't know if it's weird for a Deadpool movie, but the parts of the trailer that I liked is when they were being more serious. Like, the interplay between them is decent, but it was when they started talking about the story and the motivation between them, and they actually, like, cut the jokes, is when I liked it the most. And then you've got this weird bit at the end where they're just talking about different names for Coke and stuff. Like, that does not interest me at all. I didn't find it funny. I mean, they ended on that as if
it's
that
just
was
to let
one of
you
the best
know
bits.
that it's not a MCU PG-13 movie. I feel like they were just really trying to drive that point home. I think they said "fuck" in this trailer like 12
They did, yeah, a lot. I think the Deadpool movies had a tendency to fall into that trap of, like, pushing an unfunny joke a little bit too far, and this trailer is probably a good example of it.
I feel like that's Ryan Reynolds in general.
Yeah, it's like this is the tough thing, because it's like I really like him, but at the same time, a bit too much of him can really start to piss you off. Like, sometimes you're like, just dial it down a notch, Ryan. Just take it back a little bit. You don't have to try so hard to be funny in every single scene. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Disparu. I think, like, the moments where, and I think Hugh Jackman is playing it straight, as far as I can tell throughout the whole trailer. Those were the bits where I was most interested in, because I was like, what's this version of Wolverine going to be like? What's he been through? And I must admit, it's nice to just see him back. Like, we all said goodbye to him with Logan, and that was 6-7 years ago at this point. So it's been a long time. And he very much harkens back to that different era of superhero movies when things were kind of new and exciting, and wow, we're doing X-Men and we're starting to do Marvel movies, and it's all very cool and interesting. And we've lost a lot of that for obvious reasons. And this is just a little reminder of a different time when this stuff was actually quite cool. And it's kind of nice to see him back doing it again.
Yeah, I wonder if this will do the nostalgia right.
That is why he's here, for that exact purpose, to make us go, man, I like him. So it's working.
Yeah. If you grew up with the his original character, then there might even be a little bit of nostalgia there. I like that he's getting this third act. So he had the original wave, and then the Logan second act, which was really cool and grittier. And this is like a nice little third act kind of send off. You're right, Ryan Reynolds can overdo it a bit if he's carrying the whole film on his shoulders, but here you're going to have this nice balance and playoff. And I think you're right, MauLer. I think this has a really good chance of capturing the real mood of the zeitgeist, a kind of washed out, ultra cynical, the world's gone to shit kind of vibe. So I think this film could do really well, and I hope that it does. And I think it could be a blast to watch. I'm looking forward to it.
The question that a lot of people seem to be asking, and I don't know why it's come up like this, but it's like Deadpool 3 is going to save the MCU, and GQ literally put out an article with that premise.
No, just no.
And I certainly wouldn't go to fucking GQ for like great takes on media. And I also think it's funny that it's Gentleman's Quarterly, and it's the entire writing staff is women, but like that's by the by. Let's ignore that for now. But what they have to say is it's no secret that times have been tough for the MCU. No kidding. Between a bunch of commercial and critical disappointments, the Marvels, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Eternals, Marvel no longer boasts the premise of top-tier blockbusters. Couple that with a taste of superheroes growing increasingly stale, and it's clear that the franchise needs something. Fortunately, they've got, and it's like, I love how they cite this. Argyle director Matthew Vaughn thinks that Deadpool 3 could be the jolt that the franchise needs, because Argyle is top tier entertainment. He said that the few snippets that I know of Deadpool versus Wolverine are unbelievable. He says that's going to be the jolt that the Marvel Universe is about to have a jolt of them, and it's going to bring that body back to life. I think Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are about to save the whole Marvel Universe.
That's
Lord.
absurd. Because what are you going to do? Sign a 55-year-old like Hugh Jackman to a 10-year contract, and like it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's it's
No,
a one
this-
and done. It's going to please the fans, and
Mhm.
then you're still stuck with the current state of the MCU.
Yeah, arguably, this is like a eulogy. I don't think it's
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form a reinvigoration.
Mm-mm.
I think this is going to be for Marvel what the third season of Picard was for Star Trek. It was a
Good
cool
analogy.
little reflection of a previous era, a lot of nostalgia there, something that a lot of people enjoyed. It came and it went, and now it's gone, and then it's back to business as usual. And it didn't really alter the state of play for the
It's not
larger franchise.
We already know it regards the Fox side of things more than anything. Like, it's not about the MCU as much as there may be references. It's like this is going to be talking about and referencing the Fox continuity. Like, so the
I mean, it
idea-
seems to be, I think it's going to be a mix of the two.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be more focused on Fox, considering Wolverine's history and then the 20th Century Fox like set they've got in the trailer. Then you've got characters like Azazel, Lady Deathstrike, I think, the Pyro. All these are all Fox stuff. I guess obviously it's still owned by Disney. It's just that this movie is not going to make people be like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see all of this in the next installment of the MCU." Like, it's such a bizarre. This could make $2 billion and it wouldn't make a difference.
Yes.
Mhm.
It could be the best Marvel movie, and Marvel's gone too far for that to happen. Because at first, you had the benefit of the doubt. People would go and see your movie to see if it was good. You could come out with a new hero because people would give it a try because it was Marvel. And now you're on the other way. So now you've got to build back all of that before you're even at neutral, and then you've got to start building the benefit of the doubt. So they really need a string of films which everybody likes just to get people back on board. Because you'll have the people that go and see everything, but then it's got to filter through everybody else. And a lot
They
of people
killed
just
all
give
of
it
those
up.
people. Like,
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
it was a really difficult task, but they achieved it. From 2019, further they worked
They tried
really hard.
They worked really hard.
Yeah,
to do it.
they've gotten it. They did it. Obviously, it was their goal, because how else can you explain how fucking awful everything has been for the MCU? They masterfully nailed it, killed their whole audience. So now, if you want it back, you have to do essentially the reverse, which is make a series of great films. Which
This
at that
could
point
have
wouldn't
the,
even-
this could have the opposite effect of instead of rejuvenating the MCU, it could be like a nice little upward little blip where everyone remembers what they liked about it, and then the subsequent films after this will, by comparison, people go, "Oh, that's right. Now I remember why I hate the MCU so much
Yeah.
because of the
Oh,
scrap
yeah.
quips and
Yeah.
everything."
It's kind of what I mean by like a going to the funeral and then someone talks about the good times on a podium, and we all
Mhm.
sort of smile, a couple of laughs, and you're like, yeah. You're like,
Yeah,
still a funeral though. Like,
But I guess the question is, like, if you have a film like this, which is probably going to be quite open about the problems that the MCU has, and it's probably going to take the piss out of them, and it's commissioned
Maybe.
by Marvel, so they're obviously aware of their own the criticism that swirls around them. Is that like the first step towards them fixing the problems that they've created for themselves, or is it just going to be, well, this is a piece of media from a very different creative team, and it's just a different
Dude,
take, but like we're just going to get back to doing what we do worst? which
I'm
is making-
hoping for them to sort of lampoon the current situation in the MCU. I'm not sure that we'll get that exactly. And even if we did get a lot of it, I wouldn't see it at all as anything other than a sidestep for a second, thanks to a creative team that isn't connected to the majority of the shit we're getting.
Is this
was
this
one-
character that I'm looking at here? Is this like a female alternate version of Professor Xavier, or am I just like totally?
Isn't this the
nuts?
Magneto character? I think in this she
Well, I'm not
fights
sure.
Wolverine. She
Yeah.
controls Wolverine.
She is apparently based on a character in the comics that was Professor X's stillborn twin sister or something like that.
Okay.
But she seems to have Magneto's powers.
Well, she has telekinesis, I thought, in general. I don't know if
Oh,
it,
okay.
it
So
might
it's not
be.
just metal.
I'm not sure, actually. You could be right. Cassandra Nova is apparently her name.
It screams that they
Okay.
couldn't afford Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, there she goes, like controlling him. But I don't know if that's like controlling his mind and forcing him to do this stuff, or like manipulating the adamantium in his body to like do this.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it is weird if that's meant to be Xavier's relative, and you're like, yeah, she's bald too. It's like, wait, what? That's not how that works.
Male pattern baldness in a woman.
Yeah. It's like, well, she's his sister. Hang on.
Well, I guess that's better than what happened in Apocalypse, where it's like you become Apocalypse, you lose your hair or whatever the fuck. Did you guys, anyone see that movie?
Oh God, yeah.
It's funny
Make
shit.
it stop. I actually just wanted to pause it on that scene because I just think it looks really cool. I don't know why. I'm simple that way.
This is kind of suitable in a sense because I think today is the 5-year anniversary of Endgame releasing.
Really?
5 years ago. It makes me feel
It
old.
feels longer, I think.
It does.
Culturally,
It's
think about
that
it.
year, yeah, that was the year that gave us Endgame and Rise of Skywalker. Like,
And Game of
my
Thrones.
God. Yeah. That was an eventful year when I think about it.
It's crazy. And it's horrible.
I was about to say it was the best of times. It was
flashback.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. But I don't know if I can say best. Like,
It's weird though, because
definitely big.
things contract and expand in your mind. Like Endgame feels like a long time ago, but Space Horses on the back of a Star Destroyer feels like just last week. So it kind of conflates in mind a little bit.
I think it's because once Rise of Skywalker came out and we all had a laugh at it, it just kind of vanished. Like, it's particularly because there was no other movies made after it. There wasn't a whole lot of reasons to keep going back and referencing it. And so it just kind of vanished from the consciousness.
Nobody propped it up either. Nobody was interested in being like, nah, Rise of Skywalker was actually good for these reasons. Like, no.
Yeah, strange one. But yeah, I think in terms of like its box office prospects, it's probably going to be one of the only big success stories of the summer movie season. There's not a whole lot to get excited about. And yeah, like, I think that movie probably will do well, even though the larger superhero genre is kind of dying a death. This is something that seems like it'll have almost like a little bubble of its own, just because there's a lot of fans of the Deadpool series and the nostalgia factor for Wolverine. It's probably all going to come together quite nicely for them. But I don't think it's going to save anything. It's not going to change the wider, genre. It's not going to change course for it. It's just going to be a thing that people enjoy and then move on.
And even if it did, it's only going to be a small tick and then back to falling further and further.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being well received didn't save the Marvels or anything. So I don't think...
Crazy.
Yeah.
Could you see it doing $1 billion?
No.
No.
It's R-rated. The last two made a little over 700 million, and that was years ago. I don't think this is going to hit $1 billion. I think it'll hit 800 million.
I'm just not sure that many people care about the cinema anymore. I think you've got them out of the habit and they're more into streaming stuff. There was an article recently about the UK. It was basically that UK cinemas are in trouble, and they will likely not survive just because nobody's going to them. They're extremely empty compared to everything else. One of the issues is where it used to be a habit of people would go and see every movie. Once people get out of that and they start passing movies by, a movie like this comes out, it's like, I can just wait a couple of months. I'm not that desperate to see it, and then I'll watch it on streaming.
Yeah, it's like $15.50 for a ticket here at the local theater. And plus, if you want to get popcorn and soda, like, imagine that and risking if this movie sucked too.
Also,
and it's crazy. You've got ads. You arrive at the time, but then you get advertised to, despite the fact you paid your ticket. They really don't, at the cinemas over here at least, have a very good customer experience as it is. So I don't think they do themselves.
Yeah, I think the only way cinema survives really is through the specialty theaters. I think, IMAX or something like that, obviously. But otherwise, I would say almost every single time I go to a movie here, that there's like maybe one or two other people in the theater. And I live in a major city, so it's really crazy that there's just no one in the movie theater. Everyone, too, no matter what theater I go to, everyone just seems like they're really fucking annoyed to be there. Like, they don't, like, people working there, they just like don't want to be fucking serving you at all.
I just don't like the spatial I don't like the spatial dynamic anymore. I'm so used to having a laptop, a foot and a half away from my face. And I just don't like that big spatial dynamic of having something, 10 or 20 meters away. And maybe I'm too old now, but if I go to see an Oppenheimer and it's just thundering, pounding percussion in my cranium, it's exhausting for me.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said for that, the visual experience of a big screen cinema, particularly when it is in IMAX. Like, I know it can get overplayed, and like you say, when it's just overwhelmingly loud or whatever, it's not great. But like, there is something when you've got a properly beautiful
when they get
film.
everything just right, and it's the right movie. Oh, it's a great
And
experience.
the right audience to see it with.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
nobody.
and you don't hear just
One
like
that shuts
constantly people munching on things or like talking
Yes.
to each other or whatever. Like that's sometimes a bit of a gamble, but you never quite know. But yeah, it's definitely something I still enjoy.
I saw someone mention, like, if Joker can make $1 billion, then this can. It's like 2019 and 2024 ain't the same time.
Nope.
If Wolverine and Deadpool came out in 2019, it probably would make $1 billion. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yep.
Yeah,
This day and age, I don't think so.
we're living in different times now.
But hey,
That'd be
this
the
is the
yardstick,
thing
though.
though.
Joker's a
Even
Joker.
if it surprised a lot of us and made over $1 billion, I still don't think it makes a difference.
No,
No,
I mean, it'll
not
make
for
I guess-
DCU as a whole.
I guess
it'll
the
make
difference it would
it'll
make-
make Disney happy for like temporarily. It's like,
Well,
hey,
I was gonna say,
we've got a movie that actually made money.
the actual difference we could expect is that Ryan Reynolds might get more leverage in the creation of like these films, and that they might be begging Hugh Jackman to keep going. It's like, dude, please, we're dying here.
I know, but like, yeah, like if you threw enough money at him, do you think he would keep going?
I guess I can't say. He's
Why not?
played Wolverine like 11 times or something now.
24 years he's been doing this.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out. I guess because he ruled it out and then he didn't. So I guess yeah, I don't know.
I think a lot of this would just be it's down to Ryan Reynolds being his good buddy, and probably there was a lot of conversations
definitely.
behind the scenes, like, "Oh, come on, Hugh, do it. It'll be fun."
I wouldn't be
Like,
surprised at all if they like watched movies together and then they fucking watched like the X-Men Fox movies and he was like, "Come on, we can make some really good shit with this."
Well, you can imagine the conversation, how specifically those two, where you've got Deadpool being a smartass who has to coax and wheedle and tease this curmudgeonly old character back into one last ride. Like, you can see how it would write itself and then be drawn to that. But I think it's a very specific dynamic, and it would be kind of lame if they brought him back in the usual
thing.
conventional roles.
If they are thoroughly entertaining, like every last moment they are together because of the dynamic, then there's a good chance people will just be like, just make a fucking another one.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's the problem, though. It's like I don't necessarily want to see more of this because both of them, like obviously Hugh Jackman is in his 50s now. Even Ryan Reynolds is no spring chicken. I think he's like 46 or something.
True.
So, and he's done 3 Deadpool movies, and there's an argument to be made for like, okay, he can be a bit much at times, and like, okay, we're just going to keep doing this more and more Deadpool. Like, again, I think that's going to wear out pretty quick. He's probably saved by the fact that it's been several years since we had the last Deadpool movie, so there is a hunger to see him again, but that's not going to be a continuous thing, I don't think. So for all of those reasons, I just feel like this should just be a one and done. Like, okay, you finally got your team up movie together. It's great. 2 good friends, having a laugh. I'm sure it'll be fun. And maybe just end it there for all our sakes.
I wasn't actually getting it from a perspective of what I want. I was saying like what will likely happen in a couple of different like visions of the timeline. Because I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really want this in the first place.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy to see it. I think that the second Deadpool film just keeps going further and further down in my estimation as time goes on. I don't think it was a very good film now, the more that I think about it.
Well, like
I
I'm
fell
not
asleep in it and never went back. That's how much I like that one. I really like the first movie, but
Yeah, the first one was very good.
I think
I
was...
I just think if you don't want sequels, then they've got to be making good originals all the time, and they're just not capable of it. And so I kind of hit this point where it's like, well, I would rather sequels of good things than them constantly try new things that you know they won't be able to do at the moment. And obviously, the solution to that would be they'd have to restart essentially with new staff. But as that's not going to happen, yeah, I'll take sequels over what will guaranteed to be awful. It does seem like they're just throwing everything at the wall at the moment to see what works. Well, we've got a Fantastic Four movie, Deadpool. Why don't bring the X-Men back as a whole other thing? It's like,
oh, dude, the peak of throwing shit at the wall is fucking baiting Matt Reeves' The Batman 2 and also James Gunn's new Batman. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah, they're not any better.
God.
The thing is, I know as well, like the Fantastic Four will be the most safe, formulaic, Marvelicious movie imaginable. It's already got the safest cast. It's got fucking Pedro Pascal in it. Of course it does. And like it's just going to be everything that people dislike about modern Marvel. And so I've got no real anticipation for that whatsoever. It's just going to be more of the same, just with wrapped around different characters. It'll just be the same formula. And yeah, this is the only thing that stirred a bit of interest in me as far as superhero movies go. It's like, yeah, this is kind of fun. Looks like it's going to be a nice like last ride for these characters. I can get behind this.
And the thing about Deadpool too, I feel like Deadpool is a character for people who don't like superhero movies. Like I feel like he appeals to a much broader audience just because he's quippy and he's witty, and he has that. It's a much more mass appeal just because of the fact that it's like, oh, it's an edgy superhero.
Well, he mocks a lot of the tropes of superheroes, and he's like the anti-superhero character, which I think at this point is really appropriate because that's where everyone is with superhero flicks. They're just like, oh, this shit's old, it's tired, it's played out. The only thing to do now is just mock it and just have a bit of fun with the concepts of it.
Perfect character to close out the genre with then.
Pretty much. I mean, isn't this the last stage of like a genre's lifestyle? A life cycle. It's parody, yeah.
I think the hardcore fans who are also kind of have a little undertone of being kind of a little bit coyly shy and aware that they're kind of very nerdy, being heavily into these types of films. It kind of gives them a license to feel, oh no, this is actually can be cool and I can be in on the meta joke as well. So I think it kind of serves that purpose as well.
Also, I wish we had more parody that was like good, it would be nice.
Comedy as a whole has died. Like comedy movies in the South, stand-up. I know you have like Netflix specials and stuff, but I used to watch like comedy panel shows and stuff all the time, and they're just not funny anymore. But they used to be.
Well,
the same comedians that used to be funny just aren't anymore.
Well, they've all had to trade their balls in because they can't say anything, or they can't risk saying anything that might be offensive, and so you've killed about 90% of their material.
Dude, so many of them are moving to podcasting as well. Strange.
Yeah, like I'm actually making it as a stand-up comedian is incredibly difficult. So like so there are like three major things. There's like Austin, Texas, LA, Nashville has a pretty big comedy scene in New York City. That's like what we got over here. So there's always really, really cool stand-up comedy going on in Nashville, but like as far as the national scene and especially in the cinema, like you're not getting any comedies going on.
No,
I understand that
Todd Phillips talk about this, where it's like that's why I made Joker, because it's like I can't do comedies anymore, like the Hangover movies. They're just not allowed.
I reviewed No Hard Feelings last year. That was like the closest a movie has come out over the past couple of years to doing anything comedy related that was like in the vein of Superbad or.
You're right. Yeah, what's happened? This is really weird.
Well, movies just they don't make money at the theater anymore. Like they shot themselves in the foot by going full budget, like full blown. We need $300 million fucking movies in the theater all the time. So it completely killed smaller budget movies like that. Like those movies used to be $150, $200 million grossers domestically, comedies were, and that whole genre is gone.
And it's why TV as well. Like we used to have like Father Ted, Black Books, Peep Show, and they weren't like attacking people. So you think you could still make those shows now? They just don't. It's like people, they just chose. No, we just killed comedy. It's almost as if because comedy is the way that you would like push a line. It's like, no, we don't want to. We're exactly where we want to be. Don't like poke the bear and set something off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
God damn, it's kind of depressing. I think we're also missing the third act off the rails exuberance comedy, like a film like Ghostbusters or The Blues Brothers, where the third act would just be totally off the rails, carnage, crazy, super exaggerated, and it would have its own kind of, ridiculous humor in that because things are so over the top in the third act. And I think the culture's kind of lost the ability to create that as well. Because now we have not only third acts, but also second, third acts now, which are tedious and boring.
Oh yeah. Chris Gore talked about this. But yeah, the other aspects, like the example that we often give is movies like Tropic Thunder, which is fantastically funny, really well done, but would never get made now. And we know exactly why it wouldn't get made, because everyone would scream about how offensive it is. And it's not, because like even compare it to something like Blazing Saddles, it's like super tame, but like by modern standards, it's still like way over that line. And so for all those reasons, it just becomes impossible to be funny. It becomes impossible for movies to have any kind of fun because they're constantly being neutered by public perception of what's offensive in them. And so, yeah, what's the point in even trying now? You're not going to be able to make it work. And it's a shame because the demand's there from normal people. It's just they're not allowed to do them anymore.
Yeah, and the thing with comedy is like at the professional level, when you're doing it, like when it's already written into a script and in the movie theater, it's a different conversation. But just even the concept of comedy, like risking the fact that you have to risk. Like what would Jordan Peterson say when he said like you have to risk being offensive in order to think? Like you have to do that with comedy too, especially with comedy. Like you have to like to get good at something. You actually have to go practice it, and that definitely isn't happening with a current generation, a crop of comedians, because there's too much of a price to pay if you mess up, and that used to not be the case. Like you actually have to work through, if you want to write a joke about a touchy subject, it's going to take a lot of practice, and unlike a lot of things, stand-up comedy in particular is something where you have to go out and actually do it in front of people, because you can't do it in front of a mirror and see if it's good or not.
I think you also have to pitch it at an audience. Like comedy is very specific. It's why there's so many different brands of it, and you kind of have to pitch it at a level and a certain IQ kind of level where people want to do some of the work. They need to work out the joke, but if you make it too out there, they won't get it. Whereas if it's too easy for them, well, now you're just stating things, and that's boring as well. So you need to know exactly who your audience is and go for them. Whereas I think now they're like, no, we want this sort of random audience over here. We know our current one. We don't really like those. We like this people over here. And it's like, well, that group doesn't really exist, and they're not like a standard demographic. They're just people who all believe the same kind of stuff. So there's like a whole variety of different people, different levels of they all just believe the same thing, and that's why you group them together. But it's not like guys who are 25 who all like this kind of thing. That's a group you can target. You can't target people who all think we should be equal and believe the latest thing about this. And so because they've grouped up a load of very niche groups together into one blob, you can't target that with comedy. You'd have to niche down too far for that audience.
Is there, like, because I'm genuinely curious, like, is there like some like really progressive left-wing comedians that are genuinely funny?
Oh God, no!
Because
they ask for clapter. That's what that is.
I agree with the statement you just made.
Because I'm going to say, like, hypothetically, there must be something there must be some kind of material they could draw on to make a funny act. But I just feel like it's all going to be like, Trump, isn't he dumb?
Yes.
Like, applaud me. Like, I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong.
Go watch Have I Got News for You. It's that kind of comedy. It is literally, we're taking the piss out of this politician, aren't we funny? Because that's the only thing that kind of unites them is a belief. And it is, I agree with that statement, aren't I just as well? And that's the difference between like clapter and laughter. Laughter is a reflex. You can't control it. It just happens. Whereas clapping is, I consciously agree with this statement.
Yeah.
And that's what all that kind of comedy is. I wouldn't
Another
even
thing,
classify as comedy.
Another thing I think is not permissible now, which used to be it would fill the multiplexes as kind of like an ethnic interplay. So if it's like 48 hours and maybe you've got the black cop and the Asian cop, or you've got Lethal Weapon, or you've got like those 70s things with Gene Wilder paired up with a black guy, and you can play in the stereotypes in fun ways as they're playing off each other. And of course, that's completely impermissible now. So the characters get more bland and generalized.
Rush Hour. If they make a fourth one, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh no, it's gonna be."
Yeah.
Well, isn't there another Bad Boys thing coming out? I'm
Yeah,
really
this
interested
year,
to see
yeah.
the reaction of that.
Dude, the trailer for that looks so bad.
I didn't know
even
there
see
was
the third
I've
one.
not seen it.
Well, I
Put it on-
can say it's the audience scores have actually been really good, but
for Bad Boys.
yeah, for the test screenings, they've apparently scored in like the high 90s.
Oh wow!
So I don't know. Wait and see, I suppose.
Well, how did the third one score?
I don't know. I actually don't know about that.
Did anyone see that third Bad Boys?
I did not see that one.
I've seen him. I don't know whether I can
saw it on a
remember
plane when I
it
was
was.
kind of drunk and half passed out.
Isn't that every movie you see?
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I'm not on the plane though.
Oh yeah, sorry.
the problem for me is I watched it, but I'm like actually almost like, wait, did I watch it? Like, 'cause I can't remember a fucking thing from it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but yeah, I'll wait and see. There's a question here though, the ultimate question for all of us. Do you think Sydney Sweeney playing an R-rated hero or villain could save the MCU? Put her in a revealing outfit and everything. Also, multiplayer and single-player games. Do you prefer single or multiplayer? Well, let's answer the Sydney Sweeney question. I think her boobs could single-handedly save Marvel if they were willing to make use of them.
It would probably work as a gimmick for a little bit, but I mean, if they didn't actually improve overall, it wouldn't work for that long.
You think
I
her
think
boobs need
things
to
like that-
improve?
No, the writing, the fine.
I think things like that are more symbolic of we are changing. And so if they did that, they would piss a lot of people off in their company. And those are the people that you need to get rid of. It is literally one of the ways that you can filter people out is you just make them leave because they don't agree with what you're doing anymore. And so if you deliberately force things in a direction, then you attract people that would actually make better stories, but it was because they don't have a problem in that kind of stuff, whereas the bad people, they do.
They announced that movie, and then they're like, everyone who'd like to take issue with this, please meet in like auditorium fucking C or whatever. And they all enter, and then it's like, everyone who stood in this room is fired. Like, fuck.
Look how easy it was with Twitter.
I thought you were going to
They
say
sent
like
an email
lock the
out
doors
going,
and it's just like poison gas starts to seep in. Or
I was thinking that, but I think they made laws against mass murder.
Damn it.
Yeah, we'll have to sort it out.
The other question here, single or multiplayer, it entirely comes down to the game. You know, some games have got a fantastic multiplayer mode, but the single player campaign is garbage, but it doesn't matter because that's not what it's there for, and vice versa. So, yeah, entirely depends on the game.
I like shooters, so I'd probably say multiplayer overall, but I like single player games.
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes it's nice to have a campaign with a good story to get your teeth into, and like that's fine. But yeah, sometimes you're in the mood for just a bit of multiplayer fun.
I love the best of both, but if I had to lose one, it would be multiplayer, like because too many amazing single player experiences. But I do love multiplayer as well.
Yeah, all the games I can't play because they would destroy my life, like RimWorld and Factorio. Not because they're bad, because they're too good. I'd just get addicted and not do anything else. They're all single player games.
Yeah. Should we do a few super chats?
Sure.
Yes.
Gathered here today and all that. All right, let me see. What have we got? I'm just waiting for the page to load up, actually. Talk amongst yourselves while I wait for these super chats to come up, because there's quite a few, as it turns out. Here we go. So, they are here. Marky Mark says, Drinker, I hate to be that guy, but I have a correction from the most recent last orders. In regards to FDR serving 3 presidential terms, you said that they weren't consecutive terms, but they were. Well, I stand erected on that one then. Sorry, guys.
Oh my God.
I don't know my American history quite as well as I didn't pretend to. So, yeah, sorry. Apparently, yeah, I served 3 consecutive terms. So there you go. He also says, I think you confused him with Teddy Roosevelt, who was the first president to run for a 3rd term. This wasn't consecutive to his first 2 terms, and he lost the 3rd election. America, fuck yeah. I mean, you finished strong on that one. So fair play.
Well said.
Northern English Bastard says, underrated movie for the panel to check out. At Close Range, a dark, unflinching, fact-based drama with Sean Penn at his most honest and raw against a menacingly cold-blooded Christopher Walken. Wow. Okay.
All right.
Don't know much
I
about
just-
that one, to be honest.
I just like the contradiction between those two super chats. It really shows the difference between America and England. Like one of us like America, yeah, this one, I'm English and I'm a bastard. It's like
Yeah. We've had him on the open bar a couple of times, actually. He's a good panelist. Crit Nature says, hey, Drinker, what if literary agencies say they don't welcome newcomers, only established authors? I read that a few times. Should I be stubborn and try to convince them, or what would my options be? Wow. I guess it kind of goes against the point of a literary agency to already take an established author. Like, they would already have an agent by themselves. I mean, I suppose they could fire their agent and go looking elsewhere. In which case, yeah, I suppose they'd be kind of an attractive prospect because they've got a track record. But there are still plenty out there that will accept new authors. Like that's how the industry functions. They're always on the lookout for the next J.K. Rowling or the next Dan Brown or whatever. Just someone who explodes in popularity. So there's always options there. If one particular agency says that they don't take on new authors, they're fine. There's like hundreds more to choose from. So I guess shop around. Sly Jester says, Hail Drinker, panel and mods and chat. Any thoughts on Cormac McCarthy's classic novel Blood Meridian getting a movie adaptation from New Regency? John Helcott will direct and McCarthy's son will be executive producer. I don't know much about that one, I'm afraid. Blood Meridian, anyone?
It's a terrible idea. Cormac McCarthy writes the most ornate, exquisite prose you could imagine. I remember reading Blood Meridian for the first time, and there's a passage in the Old West where there's an Indian attack, and it's the most visceral, powerful experiences I've had, like more so than watching anything that film can do. It's just an incredible experience. So the best way they could make a film of Blood Meridian is just like take photographs of each page and put that up on the screen. That's the best way they could make the film.
Might not be the most engaging way of making a movie, but I can see it. This one here from Soul123 for $100 says, congratulations on 2 fucking million. Truly a well-earned and deserved accomplishment. You, MauLer, and Panel, and all the guests over the years have come together to create something special. Thank you for what you do and bringing sanity back to entertainment. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and I'm glad you've enjoyed what we've done here on Open Bar. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah! Open Bar, fuck yeah!
Fuck yeah!
Grant says, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is a World War II film. What are each of your top... Sorry, for each of you in the panel, what are your top World War II films?
Mine's the most obvious pick.
Yeah, I think that might be a lot of us here.
Yeah, probably Saving Private
I
Ryan.
really like The Great
Sorry.
Escape. I've seen it so many times because it's on at Christmas, and I used to, before the internet, I used to watch it every single Christmas. I really like that movie.
I guess it was a case of like just sorry, Echo.
Schindler's List and Steven Spielberg's forgotten masterpiece, Empire of the Sun. That's by far, I think, my favorite World War II film. I adore that film.
Forgot about that movie.
Everyone's forgotten about it. It's a weird one because, like Echo says, it's a really good, really interesting movie. Like Christian Bale's breakthrough role, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Really good performance from him.
And just to have this tiny figure of just this boy with this gigantic forces turning about of the world, shuffling itself into the shape for a post-war world. It's full of so much pathos and beauty, and it's one of those things where you kind of have to gird yourself to watch it because you know it's going to be really emotional and powerful. It's a beautiful, forgotten film.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Did it not do great at the cinema, at the box office?
Didn't do especially well, which I think is because people had such high standards of Steven Spielberg by the late 80s that just by comparison. So it's a shame. But everyone should see that film because it's a forgotten masterpiece.
See, there's a lot of other ones, and like it's kind of in the same grain as The Great Escape, where they're not, the highest of art in terms of like, they're no Schindler's List, they're not Saving Private Ryan, but like a lot of these classics like The Great Escape or like Bridge on the River Kwai, Kelly's Heroes, like I almost say like you maybe shouldn't see World War II as fun because clearly it wasn't fun, but like movies can have fun with the concepts and they can make for great entertainment. And some of those films are a good example of that. They're infinitely watchable for that reason.
Because it's about a really base thing, and it's just people overcoming adversity. And so even every time I'm watching The Great Escape, as he's going for that jump on the bike, every time I'm like, yeah, go on. It's like
this time you'll make it
for them.
Yeah. The grain jokes are coming thick and fast, and they have been like the whole stream.
Thank you, Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that's it's given us one great thing. Inglourious Bastards again, yeah, another great example.
But it is a contrast to like something like Rebel Moon, where there's Cora, the main character, and I'm just hoping she loses the entire. I'm not rooting for her at all. I'm like, you're a horrible person that needs to be brought to justice. It's a entirely different way of writing heroes.
Yeah. Derek says, I enjoyed seeing MauLer maul Fallout on open bar. When you go long, man, you can't go wrong, man.
I did not like that show. To say the least.
That's putting it mildly. John McKinley says, Hail Drinker, MauLer, and esteemed panel. Drinker, just wanted to say that your video on Warhammer 40k Crisis is some of your finest work to date. Cheers, gents. Thank you. I mean, I know I glossed over a lot of the details because I didn't want to get into the weeds of like the detailed lore of the various factions and the custodies and stuff. And I feel bad about that because there's probably some things that I oversimplified, but I think it got the point across. And yeah, man, it's the thing I would say to people in these fandoms of things like, tabletop wargaming. It's always been quite niche, and it's always been dedicated groups of hardcore fans that enjoyed it. And they supported it for decades. And I would say to those people, gatekeep the fuck out of your hobby, because the moment you let fucking activists in and tourists who do not care about the lore and they do not care about the game or the world that you support, I just want to change it to score political brownie points. That's the first step to destroying it, and it won't take long for that to happen. So always push back about this stuff before they get a foothold, because once they do, it's over, man. So I honestly hope the 40k community sees this for what it is. It's the thin edge of the wedge, and there will be a lot more coming.
It's like people often complain and they get a bit incredulous and say, why are you worried about something so small and minor like this? And you have to explain to them the incrementalism of it, which is the thing that you've got to fight back against. That's why these little things matter.
Yeah, because that is the thing. Like once Games Workshop bends the knee to demands like this and bends the knee to public pressure, which is only really a small group of people on social media being extremely vocal, you've signaled that you are willing to compromise and you're willing to give ground. And inevitably you're going to give more, because they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing ad nauseum. It's never going to stop.
There's also a psychological aspect to it where it's like, no, this thing is unthinkable. This is a line we will not cross, and that's far easier to defend. But once you've broken that, it's a bit like if you're on a, say, you don't eat cake. It's far easier just to not eat it and then go, actually, I think one day a week I'll eat cake. And now you've permanently broken that rule rather than having a hard and fast line, and so you'll be more likely to cheat, more likely to do it more and more and more. It's far easier just to not do something than it is to defend something which isn't a hard and fast rule. And well, maybe in this instance we can push it a little bit further. So that's what they do. They break the first line on something nobody cares about, and then use that on something more important.
And it's infinitely harder as well to go on the offensive and try to get back the things that you've conceded.
Oh yeah, so it never goes backwards. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because say there's a huge fan backlash to this female custodes thing. If Games Workshop were ever to try and say, well, okay, we might have got it wrong there, it's actually it's just all male custodes because that's the way the lore is. Again, that'll never happen, because
then you'd look like a hopeless reactionary and wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, and again, like you would get pilloried on social media by all the usual activist people, and again, it's a no-win scenario. You've already conceded the ground and you can't win it back. So them's the breaks. They made the choice, I suppose. Matt PG says, greetings panel and chat, cheers from the garage. Thank you, man. Cheers to you. Sam Wallace, MauLer, I retract my prior Fallout defense. The first 3 episodes were dumb fun, but holy shit, did the show plummet off a cliff. Believe that.
Well, at least you enjoyed the first 3. I couldn't even get that.
Ghost Text says, afternoon, guys. Just wanted to mention another problem that Kid Gloves treatment has in woke fiction is that killing consequences also kills potential story threads for sequels. It kills a lot of things, doesn't it? It kills believability and it kills audience investment, most of all. If anything can be unwritten and undone in the next scene, characters can be brought back to life, whatever. What's the reason to care about any of it? None of it matters.
Yeah, just chipping away, and eventually you'll have, chiseled off the entire thing, basically.
Derek says, I saw Dune 2 and thought it was very good, but nothing special. I don't get the hype. People comparing it to Lord of the Rings need their heads checked. There you go.
Basically,
I probably
true,
would.
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put it in the same category as Lord of the Rings. I mean,
I don't know anyone in our kind of ecosystem who had a Dune review that actually got good views and things. I don't think people were really that interested either way.
Yeah.
It's a weird one in terms of its reference level and what people say about it. Just doesn't come up that much in casual conversation in relation to movies, I find. Not as bad as Avatar, that we have to only ever reference Avatar and how we don't reference it.
Yeah. Well, there was definitely a lot more hype around Dune 2 than there was around the first one. That was very much, I don't know if sleeper hit is the way to describe it, but it just felt like a movie that, we all saw and we all thought, yeah, it's pretty good, well-made movie, good adaptation of the source material. Didn't exactly change my world or anything. It's just nice to see that it got made. And it didn't make much money at the box office either. But yeah, the hype was definitely there around Dune 2. But again, it just didn't translate into a huge cultural footprint. It just kind of came and went, and that's it. But we can just look back on it as like, yeah, it was pretty good job they did. That was fine. Moving on.
Kind of feel like we all had to sort of talk ourselves into agreeing that the visuals are spectacular in Dune 2. They don't really linger in the imagination all that much. I mean, I think back to Blade Runner 2049, and that lingers more in the imagination with its visuals and variety of visuals than Dune does.
I think we've been conditioned to just expect visual spectacle after like more than a decade of superhero movies where you're just getting bombarded with incredible visuals. Maybe not so much in the later years, but like we've definitely seen movies that had incredible spectacle there for us. When you see it in Dune, it's just like, yes, it's just another movie. It looks good. Like it's a good representation of what we're meant to be seeing there. So I had no issues with it. There was a few standout moments, like the one they always reference is Paul standing on that ridge with the nuclear blast going off in the background and like the sandstorm with the gigantic spaceship there. That's a nice little composition of shots there to make like a very nice image, but it's just fleeting. It's a moment that passes in the film. The rest of it is just...
the world of the Sarduka in the first film. That was truly exotic and really fascinating. With the guy up in the tower doing the choreographed singing and stuff. That was great. But on the whole, no, it doesn't really linger in my mind at all.
That was one of the things I liked about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, was how understated things were. Like, as they were going around killing all these people, it was kind of casual the way they did it. It was just like, yeah, you're dead, and now you're dead. There was very little kind of over-the-top action with very fast cuts and this kind of stuff. And due to what you're saying, I wonder if that's why you liked it, because it is so different than what we're doing now. Like, after... I can't remember what it's called. The Bourne Identity stuff. Everything went really fast-paced with all the action. There was cuts, 5 million cuts an hour, kind of, a second, so you couldn't see anything. That it might be time to essentially change what we're doing. Like, that's played out now. We've gone through the TikTok generation. Let's get back to something which is a bit more substantive and see if we can go the other way.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Eugene became a new member, joined the Fellowship of the Drink, so welcome aboard. Thrill House says, loved your Mo impressions. Many thanks, gents. I guess Sideshow Bob and Groundskeeper Willie are probably more in your respective wheelhouses, eh? Pretty much, yeah. I think, yeah, you could probably do a pretty respectable Sideshow Bob impression, MauLer, I would imagine. You don't have to prove it, though. I believe
Could you do Groundskeeper Willie, though? Is it possible?
No, it's an insult to Scottish people everywhere. I will not stand for this shameless stereotyping that we're all like.
Do you not celebrate Scotchtoberfest?
I mean, I definitely celebrate Oktoberfest. Like, that's 12 months of the year for me. But yeah, the rest of it, not so much.
Used me, Skinner. Yeah, used me.
You've slapped your willy around for the last time, Skinner.
They have the elementary school ball, I think it is, and the principal Skinner tells groundskeeper Willie to water down the drinks, like the powdered orange drinks on the table. I cannot water it down anymore.
I do like the bit where the dog escapes into the air vent system in the school, and it's like, "Lunch lady Doris, have you got any grease?" Yes. And he just like rips his clothes off, and he's like, "Then grease me up, woman."
Do they do like an alien reference for that as well? I forget. In the
because there's like the little motion tracker thing,
Yeah.
of like, you know, Willie and the dog.
Yeah, isn't Skinner looking at the fucking motion tracker that they for some reason have for the school friends? And it says, "Good Lord, he's coming up right behind him."
That was good shit. Lost says the Imperium ship arrived and took everything we care about. In this case, a single wheat crop harvest from a small village, totally worth a fleet. Yep, that's it.
It would have been so funny to have Noble, as he dies, he falls out of the ship, slams into the ground, and he picks up like one grain and then dies, just so that we can
Like
have
holding it like beautiful.
Yeah.
It passes away. Default the Critic says Zack Snyder on any criticisms. Shut up! It's cool and edgy. That's probably it. That's probably the thought process. Matt PG says the boiler on a spaceship that size would be insane. The amount of coal needed would be counterproductive, not to mention the amount of water needed to make steam. What would you even do with the steam? Like shoot it out the back of the ship, I guess, and like propel you forward?
I saw some people in chat, I think it might be in a super chat as well, that says that it's not for power, it's meant to feed the cosmic god that powers the ship. That's what the coal is for.
We realised those tanks were coal-powered as well, right? Because there was big, thick, black smoke coming out the back of them. But when they went inside, we never saw a guy shoveling away there. So there's a separate engine room in those tanks. Just one guy crammed in.
Also, like, if you wanted to feed the god, like, wouldn't you shovel the coal into its mouth or something?
Drink. This is nitpicking, okay?
He had the LED cables going into his mouth.
Yeah, obviously you put the coal in the furnaces, the smoke goes up, it converts in the Velasquinator into LED.
And it shoots steam into him, so he's like constantly like...
It's a lot.
It's a Rube Goldberg device.
It's amazing.
And then he farts, and that's how the ship goes.
Yeah. Oh, it's a whole universe. Sam Wallace says the space god coal engine reminds me of the cult in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. With their leader, they feed gravel. I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they had no grain, but they had an infinite supply of coal. That was weird.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they wanted the grain for, was to replace it when the coal dried up. Like, they were like, all right.
Well, they would shovel grain into the boilers.
Yeah. And the space god is like, dude, I love grain. Yes, grain. That's the stuff for me. I'll make your ship go super fast.
Make even more farts to propel you forward. What does it have to do to open up the giant space vagina so that they can go FTL? Like, yeah, maybe that's what it needs grain for.
Obviously, he'll explain it in Rebel Moon Part 4, The Curse of the Forgotten Vagina.
The forgotten vagina.
But we're not surreally making up random stuff. We're talking about actual elements in a film franchise here. This is astonishing.
Hollywood has reached a point where you're like, what would you have to do to surprise me? Because that wouldn't surprise me. That'd be like, yeah, they've done that again.
Laura the Red joined the Fellowship of the Drink, says, Hail open panel. This is one hell of a lineup tonight. Cheers to you. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
GQ Sherry says, first stream I actually caught live. A little tricky being 6 a.m. here in Australia as I'm typing this, but I'm so hyped to finally be here. Love your work, Drinker and MauLer, and hail to the panel and to chats. I second that. Thank you. Nick Johnson says, fun fact, Jeremy Jahns gave Rebel Moon 2 his 5th dog shit rating so far this year. The others were Night Swim, Founders Day, Madam Web, and Imaginary. Wow.
That checks.
Yeah.
I love how he's just got a dog shit rating. Like, call it what it is, I suppose. Mo Rocca says, actually, curious. Like, what did Chris Stuckman say about Rebel Moon?
You can't
You must
cover
know,
it.
MauLer.
He
Come on,
can't.
you keep.
Remember how this works? If it's a bad movie, he can't cover it because he can't give it bad coverage, which is fucking self-defeating.
Wait.
What he
I'm gonna see if
said-
you made a video on it, Chris.
Right. What he said
Stuckman.
about Rebel Moon is probably that he can't talk about Rebel Moon, and that's the gist of it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's
it's
trying
really
to
hard
talk
to make-
around the issue like
He must not have a video on it because it's a bad movie.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. Actually, there's no review.
I can do it for you.
Boo.
Rebel Moon 2 is a movie produced by Deborah Snyder, directed by Zack Snyder, is also written by Zack Snyder. And it's shit.
Yeah.
Zach has made plenty of films that I enjoy, and
My
Making
first
films is really
experience
hard.
with Zack Snyder
know,
was
I
with
just-
Dawn of the Dead in 2005.
he's got an interest in slow-mo, and as a filmmaker myself, I
I
understand.
know how hard slow-mo is.
Yeah. I myself am very interested in slow motion.
Zach, if you want any advice on slow-mo, I can provide it. I'm very familiar.
I
5
have
out of
hours
10.
of footage at your disposal.
Don't forget to get Stuckmanized,
Yeah.
everyone. Morocca says, all this Walton Goggins love and no one mentions Uncle Baby Billy Freeman. Shameful. Panel's thoughts on the usual suspects. Thanks all. 92 more years. Yes. We've been going for almost a century now and we're still going strong.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Usual
well,
Suspects is awesome.
yes, it is. Barring Sean Connery's horrific Irish accent, but I can move past that. That's okay. Yeah.
Wait,
Movie over.
you're mixing that up with the Untouchables, I think.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Fuck. Why did I go with that? Untouchables. Yeah. Sorry.
I have to imagine
Completely
everyone
reversed
else
that.
was like, I have no idea what Drake is talking about. But
I mean, that's like 90% of open bars anyway. So it's weird how it just made that switch in my brain. Like, I don't know what kind of, synaptic connection.
well, for
made
me,
between
I was
those
like,
two movies.
wait, was Sean Connery in the fucking Usual Suspects? That's like
I think that would have made the movie at least
yeah.
50% better if Sean Connery was just randomly there. Yeah. Pie Guy says, watching this at half speed in honor of Snyder Man.
the way to do
I think
it.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Can we like? Does anyone have like a big bowl of grain that we can just throw up in the air, just catch it?
Well, now you
Yeah.
mention it.
Juggling grain.
Yeah. TKD Boy says, hail to the chat. Quick shout out for my dad who tragically and suddenly passed away yesterday at just 68. He didn't watch you guys, but I know he would have found Open Bar extremely entertaining. I'm sorry, man. That absolutely sucks, and I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. My condolences to you guys. The Icelandic Filipino says Rebel Moon is the Bjork of movies. I mean, that's a disservice to Bjork, I think, in this case.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Bjork's original. She's a iconoclastic and a maverick, whereas this is opposite of originality.
Well, you get to a point with Zach where you're like, do you know that you're copying this stuff? Or do you think that if you combine enough elements, no one will realize?
It's a new thing.
The thing,
that
the
they combine all
thing
the
is,
elements.
if you copy a bunch of shit after putting it all together stuff, but you do it good, people like, yeah, whatever. I like it. But it's
But
just
there's
like,
supposed to be something of you in it as well.
Well,
Not just
maybe-
copying loads of other stuff, but then add something yourself to it.
I feel as though Zach would be like, why doesn't mine work? It's like, Zach, because yours is horribly bad. It's like,
But I did it in slow motion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just gave us more time to inspect it.
I did a
Listen-
Caesar reference. What are you talking
the
about?
grain is supposed to like make them, they're relatable. They're like farmers. You guys get that.
Guys, Superman's
The
Jesus.
grain-
What are you talking about?
The grain is symbolic, okay? Symbolic of the innocence of the village that this evil empire is taking away. Yeah, okay, sure.
There's so much variety. There's grain in glistening sunshine, and there's grain in wind, and then there's grain in the colors of dusk. What more can you ask?
I did think with the training scenes, like somebody spent all that time making scarecrows that actually look like humans. And they just
Yeah, I know. They
annihilated
wasted so much
seconds.
grain.
Like the amount of time that went
When,
into them.
when they start giving those fucking knitted blanket things to everyone, I was like, what the fuck? You were knitting those when you were supposed to be graining? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
As well, like, you know, some people were just going hand to hand with scarecrows, like they get given a scythe or something. It's like, that's your weapon, go at it. And then other people get fucking like automatic laser blasters. Like, how do you pick them out? If I got given a scythe, I'd be like, can I like swap? I feel like I've been shortchanged on this one. This isn't going to do much against trained soldiers with guns.
And
Can
she
I
shoots
have
it,
one
like,
of those 17s, 50s Spanish muskets with the laser insert, please? I wanna have a-
I was going to say it definitely will help in one of Zack Snyder's movies, though.
This is true.
That little kid had a little pocket knife.
Yeah. Well, one guy, the
How long it took
Tarzan
him to run
dude, who
across
just
that room?
the
And the guy just
Tarzan
stood
guy
there.
he just goes into battle with like a pair of fucking axes or whatever, and just he's fine.
Did you like it when the general guy ran up to the bridge and then just picked a guy up and held him there when about 20 of his friends are just staring at him and didn't bother doing anything, and he threw him down and charged them?
Well,
There's
clearly
so many
that guy was unpopular, and in the extended cut Disparu, you'll get like 30 minutes of slow-mo scenes of him like abusing people, and that's
I
why they
hope he
didn't
burns
save
some
him.
brain.
There are
Yeah.
so many shots in the movie where it'll show just one of the heroes standing in front of like 50 fucking enemies that all have guns, and then it'll just be like, "Don't worry, he'll be fine. I'm about to show an explosion. Give me a sec." And just like, ugh.
I don't get as well, like, you know, when the laser blasts hit things, there's a kind of splash effect that looks like it's liquid.
It's
Yeah, I think they're
slag.
like, meant to be like plasma or something. Yeah.
Right.
He's talked about it. He said he was very fond of the notion that it's like, you know, liquid metal, it's just liquefying everything because of how hot everything is. It's slag. But when I was watching it, I was distinctly like, yeah, some of it didn't look quite right. I don't know if it was the CG or if it was the style of what they were going for, but I remember feeling like it looked kind of fake, a lot of these slag. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
Eugene-
like a slag.
Oh,
in
yeah, I
Britain.
wasn't gonna say like Hillary Wallace all
Yo,
those slags. It was
slag.
like, what?
You love it, you slag.
I didn't make these names up.
Molten slag.
Yeah.
Eugene gifted 5 critical drinker memberships. Thank you, man. Kirk Chavez says, first super chat, has the panel seen the 1942 To Be or Not to Be, a World War II comedy about Polish actors swapping places with Nazis to help the resistance? I have not seen that movie, I'm afraid. Has anyone heard of it? To Be or Not to Be?
No.
Nay.
No.
Interesting. Made during World War II, and it's a comedy. I didn't imagine they made too many comedies about the war during the war,
Yeah.
because it probably wasn't that funny at the time. But hey, okay.
You like watching a comedy about it as like bombs drop from overhead? That'd be weird.
Yeah.
That takes a real sense of humor.
Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator. There's a strange little historical footnote in the Nazi records that Adolf Hitler watched that film twice. And I've always wondered why. Why did he go back and watch it again? Very strange. little
Doesn't it show
historical
how far
footnote.
we've gone though? It's like literally they were making jokes about the war during the war, and now it's like, you can't joke about that. That's too soon. It's offensive. It's like, hang on.
Didn't Hitler style his mustache after Charlie Chaplin in like some of his earlier movies, because he had that kind of little bar mustache or something?
No, I don't think so.
I could be wrong on that one. Mr. Potato says, you've probably been given this recommendation before, but I'll do it again. Watch Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I never know if I'm saying it right. Frieren.
No, I've said it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, yeah, I haven't seen it yet, I'm afraid. Needhogger says, hello, MauLer. It's me with your bi-weekly reminder to take a break from bad shows and watch Black Sails instead. Need a recommendation? Just ask your friends. Hell, just ask in Discord. Cheers.
Oh, I know. Black Sails has got a good reputation. I will watch it at some point. There's a couple shows I am in need of doing a watch through of.
Has anyone finished Shogun?
I haven't finished it yet. No, I'm looking forward to it. It's apparently meant to be good, though. Yeah, certainly what I've seen so far has been excellent. Buhowski just joined up. Welcome to the Fellowship of the Drink. Thanks, man. Adurian J says, the shuttle in Airplane 2 was coal-fired. That's true, actually, it was, yeah. That was great. Airplane 2 doesn't get enough love. I really like that movie. Fucking William Shatner in that is amazing. My small corner of the internet says Rebel Moon, aka Dune 2, but for brain dead losers. I suppose you could look at it like that. It's like Dune 2 if you're retarded.
Oh, okay.
That should have been on the
No.
poster.
Yeah. Noah Sprague Studios says, MauLer, you like good dialogue. What movies or shows would you consider to have particularly good dialogue?
Particularly good. Well, I'd always recommend. I find Tarantino is pretty reliable in general. Then you got Edgar Wright is usually on point for dialogue. I mean, it's almost a meme at this point, but I still think Joss Whedon is pretty solid. A lot of his work for dialogue, he's known for being too witty for his own good at times. What's his name? I want to say Sorkin. What's the full name? The guy who did
Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron, yeah.
Yeah, his stuff's pretty good.
Fantastic dialogue writer.
Sorry, I know you're answering the question.
No, go ahead.
I was going to suggest, is it Armando Iannucci, who did like In the Thick of It and Veep and stuff?
Yeah. His
stuff is really good.
There's a couple of like directors that I'm totally, or writers even, or both, that are like known for something else, but that do a pretty damn good job of it as well. Anyway, I'd have to like come up with a list, but yes, I love like if the dialogue is solid, I'm almost like fine with whatever the fuck the movie's about. If you can just keep me have people say things that make me go, huh, that's interesting, or wow, that's funny, or oh, that tells me a lot about them, I'm just set. But I guess what I'm describing there is the whole fucking story working at that point. So,
Carlos Rue, this is a question for you, Disparu. What's your favorite Wheel of Time character? Theirs is Matt and Perrin.
You might be basic, but mine would be still Rand, which is the main character, because he goes through. There's a big journey where he starts out as the farm boy, basically comes out leading the world, but there's a long place in the middle where he goes through there's all this weight on me, and so I'm going to harden myself. And there's even a bit where he basically turns into this kind of emotionless guy. He loses his arm, doesn't even feel it. He's just like, what's my next job? And I think, especially as like growing up as a man, you can go through these stages you kind of self. And so I think it's a great journey that he goes on. Perrin, I always hated Perrin. He was the most boring character ever. But Matt is awesome. I definitely agree with Matt. Matt's up there.
you can mention the Coen brothers as well, by the way, for dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fair. Mr. Hat says, what the heck are you guys talking about? Rebel Moon was amazing. Did you turn off the TV and then watch? That helped me. I think that's probably the best way to watch it. Larry says, made you look. I mean, yeah, technically you did. The Unassuming David says, hi all, which current actor is playing you in the epic film about your life and who would be playing your love interest? I call dibs on Sydney Sweeney. She's mine.
Damn.
Hmm.
Wait a minute. If I could get her... Wait. If I could play... I could get Haley...
You?
No, I'm going to get Haley Atwell to play me, and then Sydney Sweeney is going to be my love interest. That's going to be a fucking epic movie.
Wow, that sounds woke.
Yep.
You fucking...
That's one gender swap I can get behind, boys. Matt PG says, Rebel Moon, a rejected Star Wars knockoff of A Bug's Life. Okay.
All people can say about it in summary is what it knocks off. There's like a million references. Nobody it doesn't have any soul of its own.
The only original bit might be the slow motion grain.
Or the fucking Cole's cosmic god spaceship. That's pretty original, I guess.
There were coal-powered ships. That's probably where he's got it from. So he's like, this is just a ship in space.
He didn't understand. Like, he knows that it happens. He knows people get inspired in sci-fi from older tech. He just doesn't know how to translate. Like, it's so blatant. You just look at every decision he makes, you can see where he got it from. You're just like, God damn it, Zach. You need someone to help you.
The ship is just like an M-class nuclear submarine in space, basically.
That's what he does.
Another name says Netflix should bring in another director to remake them. Maybe Joss Whedon. That's who you did there. Nice. Samael says Privet, comrades, drinker, and MauLer. Take a vodka. I mean, yeah, sure.
All right,
but is whiskey okay? I've got plenty of that. Josh Kelsey didn't say anything, but he gave us a $5 super chat, so thank you.
I have to add Taika Waititi. That's my.
Oh, there you go. Will Wheaton. He was my favorite Star Trek actor for sure. Nice. Rory Swain says, "Hail to the Drinker, MauLer and Co. What do you think is the best performance from a WWE star in a movie or TV show?" Okay, so yeah, that's an unusual one.
Well, we can include WWF from the old days in this because I'm going to put
Yeah,
Hulk
I'd say
Hogan
so.
and Grim.
You
Hulk
just
Hogan and
open up
Gremlins
the-
2.
Okay. I know that cameo was fun. It's when they break the theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like the screen and stuff. This is actually a hard question because I'm thinking like who is because no offense.
We've got
Hulk
John
Hogan's-
Cena in Peacemaker.
It would be
which
John
is-
Cena versus. I mean, are we ruling out The Rock? I think we are, right?
Well, you don't have to.
Well, yeah, you don't have to. He was just at WrestleMania 40 this year. He's a
No,
wrestler.
what I mean is, ain't no way he's going to be winning with
Yeah.
best performance. It's going
But
to
his,
be.
his Tooth Fairy performance knocked out of the park here.
I mean, Pain and Gain, he did pretty good. Like
That
I
would
just wish
probably
he
be
would've-
the fight to submit. Because I was just thinking, like, Batista, we wouldn't go with Dune 2 because that was just yelling. And Dune 1 was mostly yelling as well.
He was okay in Blade Runner 2049. It was kind of just a cameo. He was okay at Knock at the Cabin. From what I remember, I think he did all right in that. Because he wasn't just big, angry, muscly, bald guy. He was kind of trying to play something a bit different.
Oh, to be fair with chat, Jesse Ventura in Predator, he's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's true. There
Oh
you go.
yeah, we're going back a ways there, but yeah.
Hmm.
I also quite liked him in Running Man. I love how he just
The Rock as The Rock in The Rock.
yeah.
I liked Kevin Nash as the Super Shredder in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 in 1990, 92.
Oh yeah.
It's like a deep cut wrestler.
He was he
thing.
not in The Punisher as well? He played like the Russian.
Yeah. He got the like steaming hot water in the face, I believe.
Right, yeah.
And in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good fight scene.
Everyone is shouting Roddy Piper for They Live.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. God, there's actually a lot now that I think about it.
Yeah,
It's like a lot of these movies that we just kind of forgot about. It's like, yeah.
Really.
Oh wait, Andre the Giant in bloody the fantasy film.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
Yeah.
There you go.
They also had what was it? Bonesaw in the first Spider-Man movie.
Macho
Yeah.
Man.
But,
They had,
Randy Savage.
Hulk Hogan starred in a bunch of movies when I was a little kid that I liked, like Mr. Nanny. And he played like
Right.
some fucking like space marine. He came down.
There
It
was-
like a low budget movie.
There was a
It's,
phase in like the early 90s, I think, when he did things like it was something Thunder. It was like a speedboat, like that him and Carl Weathers drove together, and like they did loads of like shooting of guns and the usual stuff. And it was weird because they shaved his like mustache off and gave him a wig, and it just looked so fucking weird. Like I don't know how to describe it. It just looks so wrong for him. Oh yeah, Hogan was in Rocky 3 as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thunder in Paradise. That's what it was called.
Yes, I remember that.
It
And
was
how
good
much
fun.
cocaine fueled that film? Okay.
Yeah. Well, apparently, like, what was that wrestling movie that was done back in the 80s? Oh crap! I'm going to need to look this up.
The amount of cocaine uses officially in the records peaked in 1982 with 10 million Americans, which means literally 1 out of 26 people at the time were doing coke. That's incredible.
Yeah, the one, it was called No Holds Barred, right? And
Awesome.
apparently Hogan and Vince McMahon came up with the entire script in one extremely coke-fueled weekend.
I'm sure they did.
I'd love to have been in that condo or wherever they were when they came up with it. Like Hogan just doing another line and being like, "Okay, now check this out, brother." Just like, spitballing all these incredible ideas.
Yeah.
What's the next one here? The guy in the Aston Martin says, "I need the Batman Part 2 already. I want to see Bruce in the bat suit evolve." I mean,
He's gonna be an old Batman by the time the trilogy's finished.
I
I mean, isn't he close to 40 now? Pattinson?
Yeah, he's about that. Yeah.
I just don't know what we're going to be getting at this point with the Batman. I mean, the Penguin is the next thing, right? When's that
Yeah, what
out?
did you guys think of the trailer for that? It's coming out at the end of this year.
I don't know what to think about that. It feels weird that it even exists. It's like, okay, sure, I guess. I'll give it a shot, I think.
I struggle to care about it. Like, I tried and I watched it and I thought, I don't feel any compelling reason to watch this show. I didn't even care that much about him in the movie. So, yeah, it's just
the only reason people were interested in that in particular was just the fact that it was that particular actor under 10 billion layers of makeup and prosthetics.
Yeah,
it's not enough to sell a second, or like a spin-off film on.
Well, I think the character name is selling it too, though. Like, the Penguin's pretty well-known character.
It's still a strange choice.
It is.
It's something to pool resources into. They chose that, and it's like, okay, I guess. Don't know if it'll have the returns they're looking for. If it's really good, that'll be neat, but I don't know if it'll change anything.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those situations where if it wasn't Colin Farrell under there, they probably wouldn't have done it. Like, I think you have a few marquee things and you're like, oh, maybe we can make a TV show out of this. Like, Colin Farrell and a well-known character connected to a relatively successful movie.
But how strange to have films where a protagonist and antagonist are developing in separate, discrete films from each other at the same time. That's very strange.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you think about what Penguin is. It's like, well, he's something for Batman to do things to. You're interested in Batman.
Yeah, he's also a side character.
There to be acted upon. He's not really something that holds up on his own without Batman. All this kind of stuff is so weird to me where you get, well, here's the villain, and he's like, well, what's he going to do? Well, he's going to be a villain? It's like,
well, yeah, and they obviously took like what was quite an outlandish character from the comics and stuff, and they've just made him generic gangster man. Like, there's nothing really about them that makes me think that this is like a super interesting character that I want to know more about. He's just another gangster, really. That's all there is to him. I don't really know what I'm supposed to take from it.
Yeah, I think they just got a rush of blood to the head, and they might even be regretting it by now. Strange.
Yeah. Because it probably wasn't cheap to get Colin Farrell in for this for a TV show. So. Rolf says, I just rewatched Iron Man 2 and enjoyed it a lot. Do you guys think it's underrated or does it deserve the hate?
Never seen it.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough.
Really? Wow.
It's ain't as good as the first one, which, hurts it, I guess. That's how it goes. I know Rockwell puts in a really good performance, but like the film is strange, feels disjointed from memory, and I feel like it has another problem of there's like a couple of movies in the MCU that all get hampered by the goal of being middle of the road films that are leading to other things, or they have ideas and they're going to be expanding them. Because like Iron Man 2 is where they were obviously like, okay, guys, we not only got more Iron Mans, but we're setting up more people. We're getting to the Avengers, blah blah blah, and stuff. And people were just like generally disappointed. But I think if we were to all rewatch it and give our opinion on it, we'd be like, Iron Man 2 is cool. It's fun. It's got
better than Part 3.
I agree with
that.
I'll straight up say I quite enjoy Iron Man 2. It's a film I don't mind rewatching. I think Tony goes on a pretty decent character arc in it. I quite like what he's going through with the arc reactor slowly poisoning him and him facing up to his mortality. That sort of thing's all fine. I think it suffers from Whiplash being a really shit antagonist.
They fucked him up in making it, right? Because like I think Mickey Rourke hated what they did in the final version of the film because they cut out loads of backstory / development and stuff. He's kind of a retard in that film. He keeps turning up and getting defeated. He's kind of just annoying and gets in the way. Meanwhile, you have stuff like Tony looking into his dad, finding out more about him, and there's that scene where he watches the clips and stuff. That's really good. There's stuff in there that really works.
Correct me if I'm wrong, was that the last movie that Marvel did before they were bought over by Disney?
I thought it was only Iron Man 1 and Incredible Hulk.
Are you sure? I
thought it was just those two.
Oh, maybe then. I thought they'd made a few more. Because then you had Captain America as well, and then Iron Man 2? Oh, maybe you're right. It's got that feel of pre-Disney Marvel. I don't know how to describe it. It just doesn't feel as goofy and like whimsical or whatever and throwaway as a lot of the stuff they made. I don't know. What's the next one? Bruno Corbella says, which will do more money, Deadpool 3 or Joker 2?
Deadpool 3.
Deadpool 3, yeah.
Joker
Interesting.
2 with the musical thing. No, I don't
Yeah.
see that working out for them.
Isn't Lady Gaga box office poison? No, she had the one that musical film. What was it called? I can't remember. She did quite well, but
A Star Is
she had
Born.
yeah, I mean, she had like that
yeah.
weird Gucci film and House of Gucci and stuff like that. So she's very hit and miss. I've never understood her as a cultural icon. I don't know if anyone knows any of her songs or why she's. So
I don't
popular.
understand her as like an actress. The music thing, when she got really popular, like I understood the appeal, at least over here in America. It made sense. But as far as like her pursuit in acting, I don't understand. I don't know why. I don't know why she does it.
Wasn't Adam Driver in House of Gucci as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and what's his face there? Jared Leto put on like this
Jared Leto.
incredibly cringe performance.
That was a he made some choices. Yeah,
He did make choices. Yeah.
He was trying very hard in that one, just in all the wrong ways. The Matt PG says the critical grainer. That's probably a fourth channel I should start up, actually, just talking about grain, video after video. I think there's a lot I could cover, and it's just like slow-mo shots of it. I can see that working. And the guy in the Aston Martin says, "Can we get a face reveal, MauLer?" Why not?
You can't. It's fucking out there already. It says every time. You can go find my face if you want. I played games with a webcam for years.
Dave's Pepsi says, the scene with the robot guy from Rebel Moon to me looks like something Zach wanted to do with Superman. Am I overthinking this? Like a robot helper or something?
I mean, he already did do a bunch of shit with Superman that was, destroying everything, right? Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what they mean exactly.
There. Well, tell that to Zod Snapneck, MauLer. I mean,
I think 90% of the time you can guarantee that you're overthinking it with Zack Snyder. There's a rule of
yeah. It's impossible to underthink Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to finish up there because we're not going to get through all the super chats. And I'm really tired because I've been doing a lot of traveling and I only got home like this afternoon. So I'm operating on like 4 hours sleep or something. So it's probably a good time to stop there. But I want to say thank you for my lovely panel of guests and for everyone in chat. I'm kind of glad that we passed 2 million subscribers like live on stream. Is quite a cool little thing to be able to celebrate while we're right here. So thank you very much for that. It's been a pretty cool journey and I've enjoyed it. And thank you to my awesome panel for coming on tonight. And thank you to my mods for doing the usual great work that they always do.
Congratulations, Mr. Drinkleys.
Yes, congrats, Drinker.
Thanks, man. But for now, at least, that's all we got for today. Go away now.
Bye.
Bye.
So, yeah.